I'll second.
First and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Ms. Treasurer.
So for May, we have interest of 71 cents and also one check
I
that
didn't
went
know
out.
I have-
Every cent counts. And one check that went out for Boyd Landscaping, the first of 4 payments plus the flowers. We're on the first one. So that gives us an ending balance of $82,940.19. We also have several outstanding expenses. That brings us to $76,562.27 for checks that have been written but were not cashed by the end of May.
So the combination of the $1,000 and the 2820, were those two separate?
There were 2 separate things. Yep, the music in the park, we sponsored one.
We started out giving her,
As much.
right,
As much
and then
as,
she come back and said
right,
one.
yes, because she got other sponsors, so that was one. And then movies in the park also came in under the amount that we allocated that we would commit to. And we actually paid the bill to Swank Motion Pictures for movies in the park.
And that was enough, that's all she needed to?
That was the actual bill.
Oh.
That was the actual bill, yep.
Okay,
So
and it was under what we,
allocated, yes.
Yeah.
And then we also paid for the audit for last fiscal year, and then the outdoor seating that we committed to.
and then we give that like $2,500 or something,
No, it was 2,000.
2,000.
2,000 was what we committed. 2,500 is what, no, yeah, no, it was 2,000 is what we committed, so it was slightly over.
And that was enough? Must be.
Yeah, they covered the additional purchase of the pots and the flowers and the new umbrellas.
I know when I was at the dentist's office, up to the bakery, hers were gone.
Would you like to talk about why they're gone, or do you want to wait?
No, because I noticed they were there, and then I noticed they were gone, and I thought maybe you had moved them down for the farmer's market,
Well, we did move them down there to the farmer's market.
Okay. because I see them down there.
There's a reason they're no longer there,
Okay.
unfortunately. And we can talk about that later.
Do we have another bill for Boyd?
Yeah, we have 3 more bills. For
But I
both.
mean, do we have another one that is due now? It seems like we owed him another bill now,
I'll check on it.
and that was for the opening. Or was this the second one?
This is the first of 4 payments.
Oh, okay.
I swear there was another.
I don't remember. I mean, I don't know. We've been flying money out of the DDA, this last week or two.
I know, I
I
wrote more
don't
checks in
remember.
the past couple of weeks than I had the whole.
I don't
last
remember
6
the
months or a
Boyd
year.
one coming through, but that,
I haven't seen a new Boyd bill, but
No, I think he just,
what did we just mail out?
I
that you
think he
gave us?
just sent it directly to me in a text. That's why it's in my head.
There you go.
Well, it'd be difficult to pay a bill that way.
Yeah.
Well, I'm taking it the payments, this first payment was more and the rest of them are less.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah, this
This one was
included
like-
the flowers.
yeah, because
That's
we
what I
added,
thought.
This
we
had the
added to
additional-
that.
Yep, this was the addition of the flowers.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
anyway,
first of four-
I'll figure that out, because I swear we owed him some more money, and it
Okay.
was in my mind, and I think that's what he did,
All right.
because he texted me a bill.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Well, we can figure out you
Yeah.
getting that to me then.
Any other questions on treasurer's report?
Motion was set.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
I-
Anyone opposed? Okay, Cheryl,
Right.
you have our utmost attention.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight, to share with you a little bit about the SBDC, which stands for Small Business Development Center. And what we do in Shiawassee County for entrepreneurs who are hoping to launch a business, as well as existing business owners who might have an issue within their business that they need some assistance in resolving, or maybe they're ready to take the next step in growing their business. So those are things that are the hallmarks of what we do. But before we get into those details, I want to share with you a little bit about how we're funded, because I think that that's important for everyone to understand, and certainly it impacts entrepreneurs and business owners who utilize our services. So the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, is grant funded by the SBA, the Small Business Administration out of Washington. And they fund us through the tax dollars that all of us over the years have paid to the IRS. Now, they also have a funding partner in the MEDC, or the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. So they help to fund SBDCs across the state as well. And then in some communities, there are some local funding partners that may add a smaller amount of funding to that total picture. Now, why did they do that? The SBA does that because part of its mission is to help small businesses start, launch, grow, thrive in our communities. And they don't want people like me just located in Lansing or Flint or Detroit or Traverse City. They want people like me located in smaller communities. So I'm part of Region 6, which is Shiawassee, Genesee, Lapeer, St. Clair, Huron, Tuscola, and Sanilac counties. But I am the person who is assigned to Shiawassee County within that region. Then there's 2 people in Lansing, 2 people in Flint, there's a person in Port Huron, and a person that serves here in Tuscola and Sanilac counties up in the Plum area. And we make up Region 6 within the state. So yes, I'm not in Flint, but I am in a community where there is economic activity going on, where people are looking at starting businesses, growing businesses, buying businesses. And so the SBA wants to have people like me in moderate-sized communities, as well as the large urban areas, to make those services easily accessible to business owners. So you don't have to drive to Lansing, you don't have to drive to Grand Rapids in order to access those services. So I am a single person in our office here in Owasso. If you've been in the Armory, as I said a couple of minutes ago, my office is immediately adjacent to theirs, which is something that I want to talk just a little bit about, because in this community, we really have, I believe, a unique relationship between the SBDC, the SRCC, the Shiawassee Regional Chamber of Commerce, and the SEDP, the Shiawassee Economic Development Partnership. Our offices are all adjacent to each other. When we're not working remotely, as we have been for the last year, we see each other every day. We have great communication. We do things collaboratively, and we all have a heart and a mission for small businesses in our communities. And I think that makes a difference for small business here in Shiawassee County, because we have those great communication, those great relationships between these 3 organizations as we try to help entrepreneurs and small business owners. So I think that's one thing that is unique, because when I talk to my colleagues around the state, and there's about 150 of us in Michigan, no one talks about the close working relationship, the close physical, geographical relationship that they have with those other 2 entities. So I think we're a bit unique in that way, and I think that makes us more effective. Now, to go back to our funding, though, the thing that is important to know about that funding process is that when an entrepreneur or business owner comes to me and says, could you help me with whatever that request is, the answer, as long as it falls within the things that we do, the answer is yes. And there is no cost to the entrepreneur or the business owner for our services. So I tell people that want to be a client of mine, we can talk every day. If if that's what you need and that's what's important to you. Or if you only want to talk to me once a month or once every 2 months, that's okay too, because you're the business owner and you're driving that frequency. But no matter how often or how few conversations we have, there's no cost for those consultation services. And I think that's the beauty of our program, because a lot of people, especially the entrepreneurs and the early on small business owners, they don't have a lot of resource to spend on startup expenses and on consultants and on someone to help them. They have expenses of insurance and licensure and inventory and services and maybe payroll and all of those things. So if we can provide those services at no cost to them, we believe that that's a benefit. And I think, again, that's one of the unique things about the SBDC, is that our services do not have a cost to the client. So what are those services? Well, you see some of them here, and feel free to take those, and my business cards are there. So just feel free to take that, use it yourself, give it to someone else. But our services basically fall within 4 areas. One is startup. We help businesses get started. So if they need a business plan because they need to go to the bank and they need financing. They need 3 years of cash flow because they need to ask for a business loan, and that's what banks require these days. They need some ideas about how to access capital. You know, should I take it out of my 401k and get hit with that 10% distribution? Or, you know, should I take it from the cash value of my life insurance policy? Or should I go for a loan at a bank? Or is there a likelihood that I might find a grant? Or do I need to look for an investor? Should I refi my house and come up with the money that way? So we try to help them think through the pros and cons of, where do I find the resources to start my business? And what is required in terms of setting up my legal structure? And do I need a business license from the Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs? And how do I get an EIN? And what does an EIN mean anyway? So those are the kinds of things that we help people who seek out our services. Now, I mentioned a business plan, and for the most part, every bank or lender will require a business plan before they would make a business loan. We don't write them, but we help create them, and we provide feedback about, this is what's good, here's a weak spot, here's a gap, you could strengthen it if you spoke to this. One of the things that goes in a business plan is what's called the industry analysis. What happens in this industry across the United States, and how similar is that industry in Shiawassee County compared to elsewhere? Well, there's no right or wrong answer to that, but if it's different, the business owner, the entrepreneur needs to know that. And so you find that with research, and often people have had experience in doing that kind of research. They don't know where to find that. So when you're looking at the things I gave you, one of them is entitled market research. And we have a team of people at our state office in Grand Rapids who will put together a market research packet for that entrepreneur in that business. So let's say someone's going to start a retail store, a florist shop. Well, what's happening in the world of florist shops right now? And what is it that's important for them to know? And does that bear itself out in Shiawassee County as well as other places across the US? So we have a team of people that will put that together so that they have that information to put into their business plan, because it's something that a banker would be looking for when they review the plan. And that market research, just like all of our other services, has no cost to the entrepreneur or the business owner. So we've talked about startup, we've talked about market research, which is necessary for the business plan, and we've talked about how do we help people find the capital for getting their business started. The other piece is we help them think about what are the ongoing expenses that they're going to have every month, those recurring expenses that people need some money in their back pocket, especially in the early months, or maybe even in the early years, when maybe there's more expenses than what there is sales. And so they need some reserve in order to keep that business going until the business grows sufficiently to be able to support itself. And so working capital, do they need a line of credit? Do they have personal resources that they can invest? How are they going to be able to keep that business at least breaking even, paying its bills until it can generate enough income to pay its own bills? And so we help people think through, where's that bucket of money going to come from? And help them source that, that bucket of money if needed. Well, those are all the startup, getting someone started in business. But the other part of what we do is help someone to grow in business and to thrive in business. And so someone who reaches the point where they say, you know what? My spouse and I can't do this anymore. We're working 15 hours a day, all the days of the week. We have to have employees, but we don't know anything about having employees. How do we do this? So that's something that we help with. Someone says, you know what, we're ready to introduce a new product line, but we need some help with marketing. We need to know how to get the word out. We need to know how to capture a new target customer. Or someone says, and this was very prevalent in the pandemic, we need a website because we recognize now the importance of being able to sell our product online. So how do we get a website developed? How do we start e-commerce? How do we start online sales? So those are all things that we can help that business with as they are ready to take the next step in growing their business. So I think I'll pause there and say, what questions do you have? And then I'll share a little bit more as we wrap up. More questions about what we do or how we do it?
I'm interested, but I don't know the business that I would be starting
Okay.
if I start another business.
Mhm.
But I'm definitely going to have your stuff
Okay.
and talk with you if I come up with what we want to do.
Sure, that would be great. And let me just tell you a story. I had a person that I knew personally from the Owasso community came to see me and she says, I'm ready to start a business. She was employed, had a job. She says, I'm ready to start my own business. I really want to do this. And I said, okay, great. I'll be glad to help. What are you thinking about? Well, I have 4 of them. And I said, wait a minute. You know, 1 might be enough. 2 might be max, but not 4 at one time. So we had to kind of introduce some reality into the stress and the energy and the commitment that it takes to start a business, do it well, get it really growing and thriving, and then start another one, but not 4 all at once, which is part of our role. You know, I get measured on how do I help people start businesses. But sometimes I think my best work is done when I'm able to help someone see that it's not the right time for them. And for them to come to that decision themselves, rather than me saying, you know what, you really shouldn't be doing this. Now, I might think that, but I'm going to try to help that person think through that themselves and say, you know what, I don't really think it's the right time to do this. And I may well say, I think you're right. And I think sometimes that's one of my greatest wins because I want people to be successful. I don't want them investing money and losing it. I don't want them to have to feel like, hey, I tried this and it didn't work and I failed. So sometimes my best reward is when someone says, you know what, I don't think it's the time to do this.
So I think that market research part would be interesting to see what different things could work here.
Right. And often, you know, it'll come up with ideas. I've never had an entrepreneur say, oh, after reading this, no way am I going forward. But I've had a lot of people say, you know what, I didn't think about that. I need to think about that because that means that I need to do some things a little bit different than what I was thinking I would do that. So yeah, that market research, it brings new ideas. It tells people what's working elsewhere or what's not working elsewhere. And I think it helps them to make better informed decisions about what to do.
I've sent people to Cheryl over the years, several of our, people will reach out to me, they want to do something, and I have her email, I send her people all the time.
Yeah.
So, we had a conference call, I don't know, several months ago, I guess now, with she's a regional or?
Regional director.
The
yes.
regional director, and because we're RRC certified, we're in that region 6, we're the only ones, or there might be somebody now, I don't know, besides us, but we were the first ones in region 6, and they just want to reach out and touch base with those communities because we're working on other things to improve the business atmosphere and make it easier for people to invest in Lanesburg. And so they reached out and we talked about, resources for what I feel like our businesses are really lacking right now is employees. I mean, how to get employees and how to reach out to them, and not only that, like they have resources for the employee. So if you have an employee struggling with something, they have resources to help them as well. So I think that, if we could somehow, encourage our businesses to reach out and use some of their services, and it's free. I mean, we're not asking them, but I think that, we do have businesses that need that service and they need to reach out. And so, if you guys as a DDA could pass this information along and, you see people in your businesses, you also deal with the other businesses in town. Maybe you're on the Lanesburg Business and Community Association, but we need to spread this that people, I mean, I've reached out to businesses before and sometimes it just falls on deaf ears, but I think if they hear it enough and if there's something specific even you see, maybe we could reach out to Cheryl and say, hey, we're noticing this and maybe we could get something back. But I think there's a resource there that we need to tap into.
We'd love to help. So, any referral or passing that information on, that's great. We'd be glad to help in some way, any business owner within your community.
I know of a business that's looking to grow here, Hydro Weight. We've heard of them.
I know them.
Yeah,
They're
they
good-
want to,
good people.
they want to get a storefront
Okay,
and they need like warehouse space. They just can't find the property or the right spot.
Have they reached out to the city?
No, but I was gonna get them this information.
Yeah,
I mean, if they're looking for a location here, we might be able to lead them in a direction, so.
yeah, and in our work with the SEDP, they often will have that piece of here's property that's available. So we kind of team up and help them with getting their business ready to grow and find that location
Growing like crazy.
that meets their need. So, yeah, we'd be glad to talk to them.
Do you have a direct contact with them? I wonder if you could take like a packet and just give it to them.
Yeah, I will. Yep.
Because that's a great little company. I think 2 companies that might be at risk of closing. Like sometimes we have turnover, just if we hear about a business that might be struggling that we already have.
And
Maybe they just need help in certain areas.
that's a great comment because, I spent about the last 15 months helping businesses find relief funds from all of the stimulus packages that were coming out of Washington and Lansing and even some of the local communities. And what we, as the pandemic has kind of started to dissipate now, one of the things that we have put together statewide is what we call a comeback kit. And it talks about here are the things now that you need as a business owner to be thinking about as you're bringing your business back online, as you're trying to get it back to recapture the amount of sales that you were having pre-pandemic. How do you come back to the point where you were as strong as before the pandemic hit? So we've had a lot of people talk to us about using the comeback kit. And that would be one of the tools that we would suggest to businesses that are struggling. But we also have a team of people that they specifically focus on businesses that are struggling financially and say, here's 2, 3, 4 ideas on what you could do that would help you get into a better financial position. So we do have experts that can help with that. And again, I'd be more than welcome to take a call from them and get them linked up with the right people. And I guess in closing, I'd say that's one of the beauties for us is, yes, I'm the only one here in Shiawassee County. But as I said, there's about 150 of us across the state, and we all come from different backgrounds. We all have different skill sets. And we help each other. So it's not unusual for me to pick up the phone and say, hey, I have this client. This is the unique thing. I know you came out of that kind of industry. What could you recommend? So we support each other in that way. So it's not just that one single person, but they really have access to a whole network if we find that we need to bring someone else into that conversation.
And they're all in Michigan.
Those 150 are all in Michigan. Yes. And we do, we do things, I know you've done it, we do Zoom kinds of meetings. So it's not like they got to travel to go meet this person. We can facilitate that so they can do it here locally.
And I don't have a question, but 10 years ago, I did use these services.
Oh, did you?
All of it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, for my retreat. I have Roseville
Oh,
Retreat downtown.
Roseville Retreat, yes.
Yep. And so, I had to have a bank loan and going through the process of developing the business plan was huge. And, the help with that and the guidance with that, and then also the market research, the bank they required it.
Right.
And so it was very helpful to me and, 10 years later, we're still here.
You're still here.
Yeah.
Oh, good. That's great. That's a wonderful success story that we like to hear.
Yeah.
Very good.
So I think one of the things that we have is that through the pandemic, some of our businesses did, maybe a lot of takeout.
Mhm.
Well, one of the things you don't want to do is give that up, right? Because that's working. You have, now you have twice as much takeout, but now we also have twice as many people coming in.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's a success story. They're not necessarily struggling financially, but they are struggling with how do we work both?
Right.
We have more people coming in, we have less employees, and we have twice the takeout orders we used to have.
Mhm.
So how do we make that work?
Right.
I think that those are resources that I think would be really helpful.
Good. All right. I can think on that and we can have some conversation around.
I mean,
What
they
could
may
we
be
do?
ready for expansion and they don't know it. or,
Right,
I
exactly.
mean, or maybe there's no room to expand. So
Right.
what do you do?
Right.
So,
And I think you made a really key point a few minutes ago, Paula. Everywhere in our community, and not just in Shiawassee County, but beyond as well. The biggest issue right now is recruitment of employees. We have restaurants who can't open fully because they can't staff with their wait staff, and we have retail that, they can't handle the number of customers coming in because they don't have enough customer service people and they can't find them. They advertise, there's posters in almost every window when you drive down the street of help wanted. People just aren't finding the employees.
and I feel like as we grow in Lanesburg, our golf course is always busy and they bring people into town. Now we have music and we have the amphitheater.
Right.
And we have kids playing at the park and we have Rosemary's Place that has people, but I feel like we're bringing all these people in, but we're sending them away because we can't feed them.
Mm.
We can't keep them because we don't have the accommodations for them. So we have, right now, I feel like we're kind of in a little bit of a problem area because we are growing, but we're not catching up on
The service.
So there's some gaps.
I mean, we have lots of people to cut hair. We have insurance companies, but we don't have, we're struggling with the restaurant.
The hospitality
Yep,
side.
no. But I feel like we need to help that grow, because I feel like the business is there. I mean, we had 3 food trucks for the amphitheater and they sold out of food. So, I mean, one of my thoughts is we could start like a business incubation area where, food trucks come in and they have a regular spot, and then maybe they would translate into brick and mortar.
Brick and mortar. Right.
So, I mean, those are kind of things that, I toy with, but, how do I send that to you? Or how do I, is that something that you would help us with as a
Sure.
community?
I think that's not an individual entrepreneur. I think that's more a body within the city of Laingsburg, whether it's this body or it's a city council or it's some other body, to say, hey, we've recognized a gap in our community. We're doing great with this. We're doing great with this. We just had the grand opening of our amphitheater and so on and so forth. But here's this black hole that when we get to this point, we don't have enough to support what all these other businesses are helping to generate within our community. But I think that's not a one business owner, one entrepreneur issue. I think that is something that gets driven by a body within.
Well, are
the
you
city.
a resource, or do you guys have resources that would help a body like ours?
Mhm.
You know, work with our businesses or figure out how to, you know, I mean, because I mean, I really do feel like we do have this gap. We have this spot that really needs to be filled. And like, you know, like we have had restaurants that come and go, you
Right.
know, well, what's going on there? What is the problem? Why aren't we able to keep the restaurant? Because I know, I mean, everybody says, well, we called downtown, it's 2 hour wait. Now we got to drive till, you know, now they're going to drive over there, going to pick up some groceries. They're going to get gas in their car. So they're using, you know, all of those things. We don't want to send people away. We
Right.
want to keep them here.
So, I mean, to me, that says, all right, we would need to sit down and do a gap analysis, and you kind of already identified the gap. But the question then would be, why? Why does that gap exist in the hospitality arena? And what is it going to take to fill that?
Right. And I mean, and then like, you know, just talk about like filling these vacant buildings. That's, you know, we have the vacancies for them. We have a place to put them, but we have to figure out, you know, what is the issue? Why aren't they, can we do a market study, you know, just simply on restaurants? And
There
figure
seems
out-
to be people going into boondocks often, checking it out, but the numbers just must not come together.
And, you know, and maybe the people that, you know, that would have looking at boondocks, which I have sent people to them, you know, we need to talk to Cheryl. So, but I feel like as a DDA, these are important issues that if we want our downtown, I mean, why keep growing our services, you know, our park and rec stuff, if we can't accommodate them?
Right.
I
So
mean,
I think that it also, I think the one thing that I think about is that how do we, like, the first part of how do we help the restaurants? Like, so one of our locals with a food truck or something like that,
right,
so that we're not competing with
Right.
locals, that we're helping them be
I
part of
also-
the
I mean,
solution too.
well, I feel like if you talk to them that, you know, we would have to, you know, we're gonna have to do some kind of conversation with the current restaurants, but we have a lot of vacant stores. So to say there's not gonna be competition, there's gonna be competition, because we have to have competition, or we don't fill those vacancies.
Let me weigh in here, because doing feasibility studies on retail is, as you know, that's really that's what I do all day.
Yeah.
In restaurants, we find in communities, there's really no glass ceiling, there's no threshold. It's almost like restaurants, it's almost like the more restaurants you have,
Right.
that you actually build kind of a critical mass, and you get a synergistic benefit through the benefits of clustering.
So
So
like
what
for
happens is one restaurant might do 1 million in sales. If you have 2 restaurants, they each do 500,000, 1.5 million each. And if you have 3 restaurants, they each do 2 million. And
So
you
what
can
I'm-
scratch your head and try to figure out why. It's because families
They
will come
Right,
from further away, and they'll come more often because they know they have 3 choices instead of just one.
And
and
that,
so my suggestion, what that I think we're missing is to educate those people on what you just said,
Yeah.
all of our businesses, all the
Stop being
businesses. And,
afraid. We
you know,
need-
all
we need-
right, let's not be afraid if we bring in,
We need
you know, another
stores.
restaurant. Let's, you know, I mean, let's talk about how it could benefit you. And, you know,
And
maybe you could be
often-
closed on Sundays because they're open on Sunday, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, but we also, you know, but I feel like those conversations we need someone or a group of us or whatever it is that has that conversation with the businesses that we have, especially the restaurants and the bars, because I mean, you know, our bakery's open 8 to 1, you know, that's not enough. And, you know, and then if we want to send people out to Subway and, you know, Dairy Den, that's fine, but you can't sit down out there and have a drink and, you know, sit in the streets. And so it's like, I mean, I feel like there's there's
And
room
that's
for them
nothing.
out there too, you know, and I don't think that, you know, the dairy den necessarily hurt Subway or
No.
vice versa.
No,
We have
and I
we have
think
one
you're,
restaurant and it's really a drinking, it portrays itself as a drinking.
Right.
establishment.
oh, that's okay, but I think your point is very well taken, is that choice drives volume. Now, yes, you can go over the top with it, so you've got to know what your numbers say and live with your numbers. But generally speaking, choice drives volume. If there's just one, they may be successful, but there could be two, and they would both be successful, and there could be three.
Even more.
And there's parameters in doing that feasibility study of, well, what do we need in Langsford? What is our population, you know, let's go talk to the people. What is our population telling us they want in Langsford? What will they support?
Right.
So that's all part of that, having the conversation and getting the right people at the table, and then laying a plan for, here's what people have told us, this is what the data supports, here's how we can do this.
Because surely we don't just want to say, hey, we're gonna shove these other businesses down your throat. We want to help educate them to
Right.
understand that adding these other businesses is gonna help you, is gonna relieve some from you, and it's gonna bring more business into town. And so, and I agree with that, because if you go, I mean, why do you think people go to malls? Because there's more options there, there's more
Right.
choices.
More
And
choice,
so
It's entertainment and they want
Right.
choice.
you don't want to eat the same hamburger every night,
Right,
you know, you want, you know, everybody,
In the same
besides
setting.
Mark.
And
Yeah,
the
I'm
same
just-
setting.
But, you know, I mean, I feel like that, you know, I mean, I don't know, Mark, you have a car wash, there's another, when the other car wash came, did it hurt your car wash?
Makes no difference. And I
Right,
think Competition is very good at business.
and so I think that that's the part that, you know, I think I've heard that in here before, well, you can't let another restaurant come in here, because, you know, that's gonna hurt the restaurant we have. But I disagree with that, and I think it's the same with everything that we have.
You
You
know, take
know?
a Family Dollar and Dollar General, how they have to bury themselves right next to each other, no matter where they go. There's business there.
They know
There's
something we don't
competition,
know.
right? They know something we don't know.
So you talked about this other dynamic, it's the same thing. It's like, well, we used to just have walk-in business, and then we built an internet during the pandemic, and now we have both internet and walk-in, and we can't have both. We don't have the bandwidth, we don't have the capacity. It's like, why is that? How is it that you now have double the walk-in and you have internet, and before you only had half the walk-in?
Mhm.
It's like, well, it's it's synergy again. It's like,
Yep.
you get a halo effect for small businesses out of having an internet, out of having an internet presence, as you actually get, how do they call it, a halo effect, that you're actually building your brand and building customer loyalty.
I think. a
And
lot of
and so
this
what
is
I
just-
love
the
about
same
this
thing with
conversation that we're
restaurants.
having is, I mean, I agree with all of these things. I just think that somehow or another, we as a group have to figure out how we can take this information and help that downtown, fill those
I gotta tell you,
vacancies.
you know, right now I'm also seeing in small communities, it's really, really tough to bring merchants in, like
Mm.
conventional, traditional merchants, like to say, I mean, we have a fabulous hardware store. We have a couple of we have a boutique shop that isn't in the downtown per se. But, you know, it's sort of, I look at these vacancies and I'm like, I know the answer isn't to try to bring in merchants. The answer is to bring in eateries.
I think here for sure. I know
We
that,
need eateries. We need
I
places.
mean, I hear
That's
it all
what-
the time. I
that's
hear
what
it from
everyone is-
everybody. You know,
That
I'm-
is what is
Bring it back
saving
back there.
downtowns right now.
that's not gonna happen. They just closed all the ones at Myers
I
now,
know.
so.
I know that.
Sorry, what was that?
I know
We'll
that.
bring
Bring
it
in the
back.
bank. I go, that's not gonna happen.
No, see, so those services, they're great, but they're not merchants and they don't provide an experience. So what consumers are looking for today is an experience.
But the
They-
reason
they
we
want
say we want a bank is
experience
because it
is
keeps
like-
people here.
Discovery, yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when we lost the bank, a big concern was that they were gonna go out of town to go do their banking and then again, stop, get their
That's
groceries,
right,
wash
but
their car.
I don't want banks and attorneys and law offices and agencies filling merchant space. We only have so much merchant space and it ought to be filled with merchants. The bank, I mean, honestly, banks and attorneys and other, you know, licensed professionals, they're very much valued. I love that we have insurance companies here. That's awesome. but they can operate out of homes, they can operate out of, down the perpendicular streets and, you know, the side streets. But I just kind of cry when I see a merchant right on Main Street and it's filled by a non-retail service. There's
Which
no experience there, there's no discovery, there's no, you know, it just doesn't really contribute to.
Well, that's why we need the whole package. That's why we need.
So
to
anyhow,
get
I
that.
could get on my soapbox.
But no, we need the whole package though, because we can't service those
We
people.
need the whole
Right.
package, yes, we do.
Yeah.
But you have to decide, you have to, as a group, whoever that group is, as a group, you have to decide what that package looks like.
Right.
So you've got to generate that consensus to say, yes, we're all in agreement. This is the path we need to go down. And that's the groundwork that needs to be laid first with
How do you
conversations.
convince
with the right people.
businesses to stay open longer hours? I mean, some of the businesses here, as far as I'm concerned, they drive people away themselves. I can't go to lunch anywhere unless I go to the bar or Subway. Okay, if I've done that twice already this week, I'm tired.
Mhm,
Now I gotta drive an hour to go somewhere to get something to eat.
right.
Well, I did tonight.
Mhm.
I can only eat so much food out of this town if there's only one place to eat.
Right, and then we need to understand why they want to do that. Is it because it's them and their spouse and they're tired of working 15 hours a day? Well, then we need to understand the employee issues and the ability to recruit and retain.
Well, some of them just don't want to hire anybody extra either.
Well,
That's another
Right, but that's what
thing.
we're trying to get at is how we can help them.
Right.
And so we're trying to figure out how we educate people on what services are available that get them to start
Right.
focusing on these things. And then we also have to convert our message that we need you to be open. We, you know, this is what, you know, Langsberg needs, and then, you know, figure out how that works
Right.
and how we coordinate those efforts.
But I would go back to my comment is I think that all begins with some type of a body in your community that's going to champion that. Because that's not something that one person can do alone. That needs someone with leadership, with a body of leadership within the community to say, let's sit down and talk about this. Let's understand what the issues are. Let's develop a plan for how we're going to address this over 3 years, 5 years, 2 years, whatever. And come out of that with a plan on how to do it. And then it's led, not by one person, but it's led by the community. And then you'll have buy-in. Well, my 15 minutes turned into something a little bit longer, but
That's-
We don't
but I
charge
think
but $1
We
an
don't let
hour.
anybody know here, once you walk through, you're not leaving.
oh, but I think this has been really good conversation. So I applaud you on that because it says that you're thinking about what does your community need. So if we can help an individual here at the table or an individual that you here at the table know that business that's growing and looking for property, we will be glad to do that. My phone number, use my cell please, because right now I am still working remotely. So that's the 6043 number on my business card. But we'd be glad to do that. But we'd also like to entertain this bigger conversation within the community about why do we have this? Where are our gaps? How could we fill our gaps?
Cool.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Thank you all so
Thanks
much.
a lot.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it. What else you got here?
I have another public comment.
Go ahead.
I think that it falls under public comment, even though I'm on the board. I need to ask the DDA permission to extend my deadline for the deck project. I was to be done by the end of this month. They're not going to make it. And so I'd like to ask the board for an extension.
Because yours was approved last season,
It was, yep,
and so it was supposed to
it's
be.
supposed to be done by the end of this month. Yep.
Well,
Hard to work occasion into the rain.
I was.
I make a
Yeah, it
motion to
is, it
extend
is.
60
We've had some
days.
So yeah, we got a
Challenges.
shortage of contractors
Then
everywhere.
you're not
It's
gonna
just
find
tough
it,
on
yeah.
everybody right now.
So I'd just like to ask for an extension of our deadline from the board.
Motion.
Mike made his motion
I'll second that.
Thank
to
you.
extend it 60 days.
Okay. thank
That way we run into the
It's
inclement
60
weather,
days.
you're not in
Yeah.
trouble.
You probably won't see me.
We don't see anybody if it keeps
You're gonna be
raining
in
like they're
prison.
doing.
Pretty much, pretty much.
Death becomes you,
I want
huh?
to check that budget again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, something about Hawaii and Alaska, round robin trip or
Okay, you
something.
guys can-
Move. Let's vote on that, just, if you don't abstain, all in favor?
Do you mind if I ask what the, I'm just curious what the delay was? Is it just that was it the weather? or
Yes,
just that
so,
they're
um,
stretched thin,
It's
or-
it was a lot of reasons for a delay. I have an entire list, the most recent being property line question and a change of the layout. And so and then had to do a reset to go back to the original layout that it was supposed to have.
It's Design challenge. Design challenge.
It was, yes, and then weather. So design challenge, then added weather and supply.
Part of that, you couldn't get the lumber.
Right,
just gonna say,
supply
I mean-
and that there was dependency on the roof. We had the roof, so there were, it's a long list of things that I hope will be done in the next week or so.
Yay.
Those guys did a
Thank you,
good
I was
job too,
curious.
the roof guys. the same.
Yes, yeah, they were pretty phenomenal.
Thanks for the challenge.
Mike made a motion, and we had a second, just to give her an extension of 60 days. All in favor?
I-
Anyone?
Thank you.
Easy enough. Face forward.
So we have several that are completed. And I don't see in there that we have to bring it to you, but I mean, we really used to be Jeff Thomas always did them. Now Mike's reviewing them. So, we have a couple that are reviewed and ready to be reimbursed. Do you want us to just go ahead and tell Rosemary to reimburse them, or do you guys want to review anything before we send the checks?
I think it'd be nice to know who completed.
Okay.
And what they completed, but we don't need to like review the details because we did that when we said yes. to
Right,
the-
so we got the receipts from Liskey's. No, Giesler. I got the receipts from Giesler's and they equal like $7,521.31.
To do what again?
They did windows,
Windows.
this
Yeah,
was building on
thank
the corner, they did the windows and stuff over there. And so their reimbursement is $5,000.
Okay.
And then I mean, I don't know if you want to see the,
No.
No, I don't need the specs. That's enough.
so we're asking for
I
receipts.
I do need it.
Right,
for
I'll give you
record.
what
Okay,
you need. But, so we're asking for the receipts. Mike looked at it. He said it's good to go. So we'll go ahead and get this to Rosemary for reimbursement on the Giesler one. I've asked Adam a couple times for his stuff. He still hasn't given me his receipts, but his is completed as well. Liskey's is done, and I don't know if you guys, if you haven't seen it, you're blind. It's absolutely gorgeous
It
down
is
there.
beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
I enjoyed walking and looking at
I
it.
haven't seen it. Can you remind me what it was?
It's, if you right across from the gas station, the marijuana shop,
Mhm.
they did a beautiful landscaping.
Oh, cool.
It's just, you can't miss it. I mean, it's just beautiful. It looks so good.
Cool, okay.
Anyways, theirs, I think, came in a little bit less. So instead of 5,000, he's 4,913.82. But he, they put in, Boyd did it. It's, I mean, yeah, we're not really out there counting plants or anything. We just want to know they did what they said they were gonna do and, so those two are ready to be reimbursed. And that was all. I just kind of,
You're saying Adam is ready, but he doesn't.
yeah, I've asked him and asked him for his receipts. I mean, we have to have receipts, right? I mean, we can
Yes.
see, but we don't know what he spent.
We have to have receipts.
Right, so I'm saying- no, I
I'm
mean,
not writing a check without
so
receipts.
that's all I'm saying is that, I'm asking them for the receipts, Mike's doing the review, so I think you guys should approve it.
It's already been approved as long as it's gone through those steps, and if we're just
He just
reviewing
doesn't,
the
yeah,
end
it's
result.
approved. He just
As
doesn't
long
have
as
to
Mike
pay.
has looked
Yeah,
at it.
and that way
said it's
everybody
fine.
knows what we did and, it's all out there, so I'll get these. to
So we can
Rosemary.
release those two, and then if Adam gets his to it, we'll
Okay.
release it.
So I don't know, do you want to make motions on that or what?
On the
I-
two that have receipts, yes.
Is that a motion?
Yes, that was a motion to
pay them
approve,
out.
to pay the two that submitted receipts.
So Liskey's and Giesler. Is there a second?
All in favor?
I,
Anyone opposed?
So there's two left. Don't you have one?
Yep, I have to order siding.
Oh, okay.
Because your awning is up, we're just waiting on the siding, right?
What is your business again?
I know.
I'm sorry, I
The
should know
insurance
everyone
agency.
better. Insurance.
Yeah,
Hopefully
the
you're
darn
not.
insurance agency.
Oh, darn it, those insurance agents.
That takes up a storefront.
Oh.
Literally go around right
You know
now.
what?
And he lives upstairs.
And here's the thing is, I don't know anybody and like, so I just open my mouth and I say things and, you know
Sound
that
like
I'm
the
saying
mayor.
it objectively because there's no bias at all, because I don't know anybody.
I think if we
Sorry.
could fill any of, oh, it's fine. If we could fill all those storefronts, we're better off. Like, not to even be picky which one goes in there.
Right, but see, that's the mindset we don't want to have. We actually want to be
To
like,
bring in more people and staffs and stuff.
well, no, but no, we're trying to get, like, we want to be a destination, right? So we want people to come here. So as things trade out, I mean, obviously, we want to fill storefronts, right? But as things trade out, what would you like to see here? You know, do you want somebody to sell like, you know, antiques? Do you want, you know, pizza? What do you want to see
I mean,
here?
I've
you
seen
know?
so many downtowns where you go down and it's an attorney, an optician, a salon, a travel agency, a lawyer, and it's just like, where's the retail? And then when a merchant wants to fill a retail space, there's nothing available. It's all locked up. So I actually see a vacancy on a traditional, a traditional merchant space. I see that as an opportunity. And as soon as you give it away to a non-retail service, that opportunity is gone. I mean, it's just gone. It's not, so
There's just
again,
so many.
retail is
In our
discovery. Retail is entertainment.
We have a lot of them to build.
Right,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
don't think
I
that
just
she's
assumed
saying don't fill them, I'm
yeah.
just saying that I think you have to have a vision, right? I mean, and the vision is that we do want, if we want to sell kayaks so people can get on our boat launch, right? We kind of want to
Right,
see,
so I'd love to see
that kind of-
outfitters.
yeah, that
I'd
kind of
love to see
activity would be,
Any retail would be
but
fantastic.
what do you leave
any
town
retail.
for?
Yeah.
What do you go shopping for that's not in
Just
Langsberg?
My wife does that.
Well, what, does she shop in Langsberg?
Where?
Yeah.
And that's what
Right.
she's saying,
That's
is
what I'm
that,
saying, there's
we
no
have
retail.
we gotta think like that, so that, yeah, we could have, a whole bunch of doctors and lawyers downtown, but what's going to bring people in and keep them here?
Novelty
Right?
shopping.
A brewery with flights.
See?
Yes.
You had a brewery.
We had, well,
And-
he had a,
That brewery was,
he
a
had a
really bad
narrow
idea.
vision. His
Yeah.
strategy
You're gonna
was,
have the same
he
thing
didn't
with a
do his market research. Let's say.
restaurant. You've ever, now, I don't know if any of you've been in the restaurant, if you've ever been in the restaurant business, it's a abundance amount of work.
Mhm.
And if you're willing to take that on, even if, because, of course, everybody says, well, I want to own it. That's not true in the restaurant business.
He owns you.
It
Well,
was-
it's not true in a lot of businesses. I mean, no
Correct.
matter what, it's a lot of out of pocket, it's a lot of
And you
hard
are
work.
going
It's-
to work
yeah.
your hind end off, no matter what it is.
it goes back to a staffing. If you
Correct.
have really good staff people, get things. A lot of people go there. They have good staff, good work, or good food and all that. But if you can't find the labor,
And we're not the only community that's gonna have that problem right now. I've been all the way got back to Tennessee last night, and they got the same problem down there.
And I agree, we
I
traveled.
mean, literally,
To Virginia, and everywhere we went, I mean, we rolled up at Virginia Beach to a Burger King, and they said 357, and we're like, what?
that's all they could sell.
What? And of course, my husband orders double
Which
whatever,
is
so, well, I was too, and he goes, all we serve is number 3, number 5, or number 7.
that's your three choices. You got 3. We could make it 1.
And I was like, that was a first, I mean, none of us knew what he was talking about. It's like
Wow.
3, 5, or 7. We're like,
He
what?
took it for granted everybody in the world knew exactly what he was saying.
We had no
Like they
idea.
do in
Yeah.
a lot of things.
But I think what we're looking for here is that we can all list off all the problems, but we're the people that need to help with the solutions. That's what this group of people needs to help to find these solutions.
I'm happy to help, and I'm happy to have those conversations with the restaurants when that dialogue. I mean, it kind of, maybe it's a merchant meeting, maybe we bring them in to one of these meetings and just have them, join us to have that dialogue, or maybe, I don't know, but I'm happy to help.
I
Right, and
think
this
it'd
is
be-
where, I mean, this is kind of where we're leading into now is with our
Yeah.
DDA plan, our updates and goals. And so let's not get like bogged down in specifics, but what we're trying to do is kind of list a few goals and talk through some of the things we talked about tonight that, I mean, maybe our goals aren't always gonna have to be about spending money. Maybe we need to spend some time planning and working with people like Cheryl and Sharon, who
I think
has
it'd be interesting.
the
to
marketing
know that.
information and, and then working with our businesses. I mean, we have to start doing some of those things. So yes, we have X number of dollars coming in every year, but let's look at what we want to spend it on regularly, like the movies, the music, if those are the things that we want to keep doing, what's left? What kind of projects do we want to do with that? And, or do we want to do more programming or do we, so those are the things we kind of want to just, and then we can get these generalities, you might say, into our plan so that we have a vision and a steering of a direction we want to go. And then when we do our budgets, we start actually funding some of these projects. And maybe, if you look at some of the things I gave you, like maybe, 10 years out, we think we want to do something big, or maybe 3 years, we want to put a parking lot somewhere. Those kind of specifics could be in there, but like we kind of want some generalities, but we also want to know what direction we're going. So that's what this plan is about. We have an old plan that, it has that direction and vision, but we've talked about how old that plan really is. And, this is our old plan and this was our new plan. This new plan didn't have any direction in it. It didn't have any vision. It took our projects from this plan, it cut and pasted them and put them in here. It used the old maps. I mean, these maps were pretty much taken right out of the old, and this talks about the granary redevelopment and the proposed library, which I don't even know if we ever talked about wanting to do either one of those things, but they ended up in our new plan. So basically I have alluded to this on several occasions. Christopher's talked about it, but not happy with this plan. Okay, not happy with it. Tired of working with the professionals that were trying to help us. And I said, I'm just gonna get this done. So that's why we're doing these exercises with goals and objectives and visioning, is because this is our plan and we need that in there.
So I would just like to ask, I'm just gonna stick my neck out here. I just want to be on the record with this really clear. I want it to be crystal clear. Of the consultants that were working on the new plan, did they satisfy the scope of work that they were contracted to do? Or did they fail to perform? And depending on which answer, where does that stand? I mean, I hear you saying you're not happy, that we have work to do, that they're not working on it anymore. Can we be a little bit more clear? Like, where do they really stand? Where do
So
we
I'm
stand
trying,
with
I
them?
was gonna look back at it today because I thought this might come up in the
I'm sorry,
conversation.
you knew I was gonna bring.
No, it's fine. I mean,
I have
I'm
to
not trying to
ask.
hide anything. I was trying not to make a big deal out of it and get
But I
this
think
done.
we want to know. We want to
So,
know what really happened.
The MEDC, I think Christopher might be on now. They paid for the majority of this work. And there is I do have the actual contract, and I don't think that all of the things in there were met for sure. But the last time we had, that Justin on, I can't remember what meeting it was, maybe February or March. He was supposed to get with me. I've not heard from him to this day. And go back over a few things. But that never happened, and I just decided I wasn't gonna ask anymore. And
So
so.
did you ask him numerous times then? Did you follow
There's
up with
emails,
him?
there's, Christopher's worked on it, and the MEDC is aware of my frustration, and, I mean, we've worked with this company before, and they did a great job for us last time, but somehow something fell through the cracks this time.
Something's falling through.
Well, and I kind of just wanted to, get this done, basically, and so I took it on.
So have they been released? I mean, have you basically said, to them, you know, you haven't performed on the contracts, so we're paying you for the things that you did do, and, you know, the
I don't know
relationship is
where it's-
terminated,
I
or
think-
nothing like that.
I feel like part of the problem is that, you know, it was the MEDC and us working together to work this out, and, that, I'm trying to find the contract, but no, I looked that over today, and they have not met everything on our contract. And
So
basically, so I just feel like, I mean, the document we have, you all had this, and we were ready to move forward with it, but then the MEDC kicked it back, and they were just, and I really wasn't happy with it, with you guys' plan, and nobody really said much, so.
Well, I was, yeah, honestly, I've been frustrated. I'll be honest with you. I've been kind of puzzled, not frustrated. Probably nothing near to the frustration that you've had to deal with from what I'm hearing, and I'm sorry you had to deal with that. But I've been just kind of disappointed at how little progress we've made, given where we're at right now in the calendar year. I'm sort of like, you know, why isn't this coming together? Why do we not seem to be closing? Why are
I
we
think
not
it's,
wrapping this
right, I
up?
think it's because I was not expecting to be the person to have to hold the visioning conversations.
Yeah.
And I don't think that ever really happened, and the meetings are on tape, so you guys can go back and
No, that's.
tell me
okay.
I'm wrong if you want
I
to,
believe
but.
you. I just really wanted to be, more transparent about whether they're not performing on the contract. So if, you know, do we need to write a letter to them saying, these are things that you have not performed on, and we need you to come back and perform on the contract? Write them a letter. mean, is that
That
too
could
much?
be, that could work, but part of the problem that I have with that is that, you know, I'm to the point where I just kind of
You're
want to do it.
frustrated. You
Yep, I
just
want
wanna
to do
be
it
done
myself.
with
Let it go.
Just want to let it go.
Yep.
All right, that's okay.
So do we?
I mean, I
need to
think
get-
they were telling the MEDC they were already over budget. So
Yeah,
this,
but I go over budget.
So
all
this
the
is the
time, and I
proposal
still do-
that
I
we
still
had.
fin-
If-
I
I
still
mean-
finish the scope of work that I contracted to do, even if I have to go over budget to do it. Sorry.
so basically, this was in the contract we had, was that, you know, to meet with the DDA, discuss the boundaries, allowable activities, tax interest, all that good stuff, then update boundaries, which we never did, so that wasn't, update maps. There were no updated maps, those were, you find those
Copied
maps
over.
in there, they're just old maps. Update the introduction section. Really, there's no current information in there, that, everything in there is just real cookie cutter. I mean, I found that same plan online. So, you know, I mean, it's cookie cutter. I'm not saying I'm not gonna rip off and duplicate from other plans online, but I'm just saying it was cookie cutter. Update the plan objectives. There are no objectives in that plan. You look at that plan, there's not a single objective in it.
I have a copy of it.
So, you know, I mean, those things aren't in there, and so that's what we're trying to get to here.
That's, to me, that's a real short, that's really
How much is
coming
that?
up short.
This, I feel like it was $6,000 or $7,000, and I think the MEDC paid the majority of that.
Have we paid anything else?
That's what I
yet?
was looking for, because I don't,
It
I
was
don't,
probably before you were treasurer.
okay,
Cassie, is Christopher on?
I'm not seeing where I paid them.
Yeah, Paula, I'm here.
Hi, so you've heard it all now, so. Did
I
I
have.
cover it, or?
Chris,
Yeah,
what-
I mean, I think you did. I think it's just an interesting, unique situation. I think part of what happened here as well is, the firm had a direction they were going. And I think ultimately we got pretty far down the road and just realized that wasn't the direction that aligned with the city. And ultimately, Sharon, kind of to answer some of your questions, I think we put it in the hands of the city and said, what do you want to do? Do you want to keep working with them or not? And I agree. I think there are a lot of consultants who would finish the project over budget if that's what it took. I think we're pretty far, it sounds like, off the mark of where we want to be. So that would be a massive over budget. And I think there's just a desire to finish it on our own. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's probably from our conversations what I've got.
Fair enough, thank you. disappointing, but I'm disappointed that you're, I'm not happy that you're disappointed. If you're disappointed, I'm disappointed.
Yeah,
So now we just gotta figure out how to get it to
So
the
I've
point
been
where we have a
online.
plan that we're all,
Yep.
that we feel good about.
Well, when you talk about the maps or any of those, we can't change our boundaries, correct?
No, but there could be a really
More
nice
modern.
updated, that shows the zoning and the residential and the commercial, what uses are there. I mean, if you go online, there's lots of other DDA plans out there and there's maps that, I mean, the MEDC is gonna help me create new maps and Nancy and I have some mapping capability.
But I mean, our boundaries
No,
can't
we didn't
change.
change, we
Yeah.
could have changed our boundaries, but we did not. We did not work at that. That's a whole nother
Yeah,
process.
that's-
Yeah, we didn't have any intent of doing that.
Yeah, okay.
So do we maybe go through a short list of things that we're gonna require of them still? Like, for
I
instance.
mean, I'm not.
Okay, all right.
Because
all right.
I mean, I'm pretty much to the point where I have their template. I
Uh-huh.
have other templates online. What I need is I'm trying to get from you guys.
She's
So
just trying to
I
get
am
going.
I'm the planner. Let's say, I'm just asking you guys, I'm trying to reach into your brains and find out what you got going on in there.
I
It's
think I
really
was
scary.
confused about why we were doing it that way, but now
The
it's
thing about
starting
it,
to be
mine
more
is the
clear.
MEDC knows the problem.
You
They're
were
aware
shielding
of
us
it,
from it, weren't you?
Right.
and they've
Probably.
been nailing it, so let them deal with it. They paid for it, most of it. And we move on and.
Right,
just
and I think they, they're aware, I'm aware, and I mean, we're far enough in this that all of the bones are in there. What I'm trying to get from you guys is the visioning, what do, I could have used the goals from the old one, but we went through that process last time. And we kind of crossed out some things.
Yeah.
We did, so we're making, those are just the few pieces I'm needing. Once we get through that, then, and I want to talk about, do you want more benches? Do you want more, what do you want on your regular budget? And then what do we, that tells us if we're getting 70,000 a year and you're spending 40, that leaves you 30. What do you want to do with that 30? Or do you want to keep doing the things we're doing, the movies, the music? Do you want to stop doing that? Do you want to buy flags? Do you want, flowers, whatever it is? Those are the kind of things I'm looking for to put in here and not specifics, not we're gonna get red tulips and put them in front of Jake's garage. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about generalities. And there is some specifics that we want to stick with. Do we want to keep our historical look? Or do we want to switch to the Swiss Alps? What those kind of things, and let's talk about like food trucks and building our, restaurants and that conversation we had tonight played right into this, if you ask me, because we can put a lot of resources in things that probably won't cost us much.
I love the food truck idea, absolutely
too.
love it.
So-
I think it would be a hit. I think it would really help our farmers market if we did it during the farmers
Well, and my
market as
vision
well.
would be that lot right behind you, just to put, and I'm sure people would love that. Food trucks behind there with like picnic tables in the middle. And it doesn't even, we don't have to spend a lot of money to do
Yeah, we
this.
could
The
just start
city,
with one. and
the
then-
city owns the property.
Mhm.
And then we could put up a shade thing or more umbrellas out there and maybe we could look at that, that place where we could do a liquor license there or whatever.
Shit,
But
I'm gonna open up smokehouse down there.
I'm
Smoke
talking,
pork.
but we have one bar, right? But what if one of these food trucks was something that everybody loved and they're like, man, Langsford loves me, I can open a restaurant. And they move from the food truck to the restaurant, a new food truck comes in. And then we start to grow our brick and mortar from this food truck base.
He did that in Alpena.
Those are the thoughts that I have, is that I feel like when I see them set up over here, and the people I saw coming to this, I didn't know them. I didn't know half of the people.
So I would actually recommend that we just put that on the list. I don't think we need to vet it entirely today, but I
Right.
think that the food truck idea.
So, and
It's
that's what I'm
really a
talking
good-
about, is
it's
that
a
we
good
don't have
one
to
to
get
just-
really lost in the weeds that,
We
all.
don't have to get lost in the weeds. Let's just
No.
put it on the list.
So that's kind of,
Okay, and another. Yep, we'll just, yeah.
all right, so
deadline. What's our deadline for having?
I think because I
today?
took this on, Christopher is just gonna give me a little bit of leeway here.
Is he?
Yes,
we
but
ask
he
him
has,
today?
he has seen me moving through this process
Yeah.
and he's aware that we are continuing to move through it. And really, once we get these things like that I gave you tonight, you know, if we get through those goals and objectives, which are, those are kind of just a confirmation of some of the things we talked about last week. And then we talk about how we can turn those goals and objectives into, you know, some major projects or or just your general budget. You know, so we can look at things as a general scope
So
or,
which exhibit do you want us to look at to do?
well, I don't, if you guys looked at this stuff, just let me
Yes, but-
explain to you what I gave you and how I kind of feel it. So we go through the goals and objectives. Like the first goal, improve the overall appearance and connectivity of downtown. And then I had some things kind of laid out. Christopher helped me throw this piece together, and these things that you see underneath there are from all of our other plans. Our master plan, the economic strategy we talked about, and, you know, Parks and Rec plans, whatever, they're all from our other plans. And even from the fit assessment, there's some things in here. So some of those fall into here, like support downtown design plans for downtown to identify public space needs and beautification. So I would roll that into that, you know, we would want to look at we could do that ourselves. We could study the downtown, or we could hire somebody to say, what are we looking for here? And maybe we already know what we're looking for there. So those, like, that's a plan or a study. So physical enhancements, you know, to meet this goal, we would provide amenities such as street lighting, that kind of thing. So that's what all of these do. They just kind of go through those goals and provide some support for them. And then specific projects would come out of that, like these things, you know, I got you like, I don't know, 40 or 50 things there, but those I think we could get deeper into the weeds at another conversation. If we know we want to keep working on sidewalks, if we know we want to beautify the downtown. I mean, those are the directions I need. And like, there's another one, says item 5, page 12 at the bottom, funding at the top. I kind of took your budget and I'm like, well, here's the general things we do. And then we do the promoting and the you know, some advertising. That's the advertising we do. So the special events, and then all of these things fit into those goals and objectives that you've already laid out for me. So I feel like the things that you're doing, you need to determine, do you want to keep doing those? Or is there something that's really not working? Or, you know, or
So on the,
did it work best when we did a face forward and somebody did landscaping and we don't want to do any more windows? Or, yeah, I mean, what kind of things, those are kind of conversations we could have.
so can I just, on this sheet with the prices?
Yeah.
On the housing study? That would be like 25 to 30,000, not 50.
I think we were just throwing out
Just
some,
throwing numbers
yeah,
in there.
yeah. Just like if we wanted to do a housing study,
Yeah,
those
I
are gonna
just-
be capital improvements.
Yeah, I'm just trying to give you input. I thought you wanted like.
No, that's
specific stuff.
fine, and I can change that to that.
I would
mean,
change it to 30, and then the market study, I would call that a retail market study and make that 30. I'm just telling you right now, you don't need 50, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think Christopher made those numbers up,
Oh,
but,
okay. Sorry, Chris.
I 100% made them up, Sharon. You know this stuff way better than I do in terms
Phoning
of
in,
cost.
I
So
won't write
please.
it.
Yeah,
I
and
want
so,
to
you
save
know, I
us
can
money.
do that.
That's $40,000.
I think the plan,
Sharon, I was just trying to get you a really good study. Right? Really,
Oh,
really good.
the
Say
plan
that
there
line
was
for-
that if we want to do these studies, they are gonna cost us something. And those are gonna be a little expensive and something big we have to plan for every 5 years or every, you know, so many years or whatever. So on that, the funding page we were talking about, so I kind of just totaled up what we are doing, and that's about $34,000 a year. And if we're gonna get 70 a year, and then as business comes in and things get bigger, we're gonna see that grow. So we can, you know, we can increase on these, or we can add some other projects and say we're saving for them. We, like I talked about before, we did bond one time and we did Roosevelt Row and, you know, we did McClintock and some other things. I mean, is there a big thing you want to think about bonding for? And then we could throw that into this funding chart and talk about some big projects. I mean, one of the things that's in that plan that we currently have is Hogsback. You know, I know Mark's talked about it for a long time, everybody's talked about it for a long time, but if that were a priority, where would it be, 1 or 10? And would it be, when are we gonna get the money to do something like that? How are we gonna get there? So, yeah, so that's in that plan right there that I don't know that this, most of this DDA even know what we're talking about, Mark. I don't, but it's in that plan. So that's what I'm saying is that's why I was so unhappy with that plan, is because I don't feel like it hit anywhere near the target of what a useful plan. We're not gonna use it. It's not helpful. I don't think any of us want that.
I think that we want actionable goals.
Yep. So I think that, like, when you look at this funding thing, you know, what do you want to do that you're not already doing, and what do you want to keep doing? Is there, like, out of what we're doing, does everybody want to keep doing the advertising?
Yes. I don't really-
$1,000 enough a year for advertising?
No.
So, I mean, these are, you know what I'm saying? So these are things that if everybody feels like advertising is
What are we
important.
using advertising for?
Well, right now we advertise in a flyer that goes out to Sleepy Hollow. It's a map. And it goes to Sleepy Hollow, and it goes in the hand of every camper. And over the years, it started out when I first started getting people to advertise in there. It was all Ovid, St. John's, DeWitt.
Can we
Now.
put a billboard up instead? Like on farmland?
Finish this one first.
I'm just thinking like,
No, wait, let me
rather
tell-
than,
Can I tell you how many people see this before?
Okay.
300,000 people a year. And it's all Lanesburg advertisements now. It doesn't have hardly any other cities in it whatsoever. And when you drive out of Sleepy Hollow, you see a big sign that says Lanesburg this way. That is impactful. That's impactful because you're reaching people who are right here, sitting in there. And
Every
yes,
single person going in there gets
and we-
yeah,
And
flyer.
they have 300,000 visitors a year. I mean, you could put up a billboard, but where would you put it and what do you wanna? I mean, you see what I'm, you know, it's like, so yes, for what we are doing right now is that pamphlet, and then the Shiawassee County puts a map out.
See,
So
on
I
that
don't, I
one,
like
one
the
was
idea,
500, the other one's 500, so we're splitting that down
Right.
between the two.
so I
And that
like
one
the
goes
idea
down
of
the west
signage though.
up to
I mean, I'm a
Cleveland.
big fan of
Well,
more signage, and we've got some beautiful signs like at the Bates Park and, you know, the new wayfinding signs
Yes.
that we have
Yep.
are beautiful. I'd love to see more of that.
Yep. And I mean, those are the things I think that, you know what I mean, we need to hit on and not be specific. Like, I mean, I would just write down signage. Does everybody want to work
But
on more
it's on here,
signage and
right?
figure out, you know, what works?
It's on here.
Yeah, it is, but I'm just saying, so that's what I'm looking for is feedback on some of these
And
things.
you want feedback on this right now. You want today, you want feedback just on.
Yeah,
this,
or I
right?
mean, whatever, if you guys want to look at all this stuff and, you
I mean,
know,
I'm trying to do that though.
And
So
I know,
why
but if
is-
we want to absorb it and go through it, because I think we actually just need to go through each line
We
and
do.
talk about some of these things and just bounce ideas around.
we should just go through them one
Right.
at a time.
Yep.
But let me ask you real quickly, I'm gonna jump to the bottom. Why is Roosevelt Row, why is that one crossed out? I'm just curious on that.
Well, this is something that I'm gonna, I think it's because it talks about the entertainment. venue.
Yeah, then you,
So, and the reason I crossed that out is because we put the entertainment venue up here. So if we want to look at Roosevelt Row, we should talk about it for something besides the amphitheater. I think that was the original thought
So can
there.
we just take the cross out off of that?
Oh, yeah, this is just me kind of
I
saying.
know,
hey,
I'm
we-
trying to give you the feedback.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So that's what I'm actually responding to your request. So I'm just suggesting that on the first half of that, support development of site plans for the use of Roosevelt Road. And just put a period there
Oh, there you go.
and leave it on. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
So just leave it on the list, but it doesn't have to be. an
Yeah, and
entertainment
that's
venue.
fine. I just think that,
We can
yeah,
go
I
through
I
these
only
one by
crossed it out
one.
for
We can-
myself to make sure that we
We
talk
can
about
start at
that.
the top. I mean, planning studies, support downtown design plans for support downtown design plans for the downtown, that may be a little wordy, but support design plans for downtown, particularly the first downtown out, to identify public space needs and beautification. I think that's, do we need, it's under planning and studies. Do we need a study to do that? Or has that been studied already? Do we already have a plan?
Well, I think that
Does
what we
for
would want to do
downtown
is take a fresh
beautification?
look at downtown, I think is what this is saying, is like take a fresh look at what's there, look at, what we have for public spaces, like our benches down there, do we have a green one here and we have one that's a little bit gray and green. So like, do we want to look at downtown? I mean, but I think that's said in here in lots of ways.
Do we need a study, though? I'm focused on the fact that it says planning studies. Do we need a study in order to improve?
So that would be programming then?
I would probably just call it physical enhancements to just say, work on a plan, but prepare a plan. I'm not sure. I think what I'm saying is, do we have to hire another consultant to do that? Or do we just decide that we're going to have a plan on how? to
Right,
do
but that's
this?
not a physical enhancement. The physical
It's
enhancement would
plan.
be sidewalks, roads,
Got I
those
see.
new light poles, whatever. So
I
it would be a
see.
plan or a study, but it could be programming, like something we
It could
support
be done,
without a
purchased
professional.
or without.
Right,
I
Right.
mean,
so
the
we don't have
planning
to
could be
put
done
the,
by
I
us,
see,
or
it's
the study can be
planning
done.
and studies. Got it. Okay.
so it doesn't have to be by a design professional, right?
Got it. It just
Most
says
of ours
planning.
are not usually.
It just says.
Or
planning.
try
And then
not
like
to
on
be.
the side there, we have
Try not to
ranking. So
spend.
if we decide some of
Okay.
these things need to stay or all of them need to stay,
Okay,
then
makes
we
sense.
kind of want to rank those as, is it high, medium, or low? How do you feel about that?
Because honestly, I mean, I've digested this really fast and I think this is a really good list. I don't see, nothing jumps out at me as something that's missing and it seems really quite comprehensive. So
Like,
I mean, I'm not sure, I mean, we could go through them line item by line item, but as I look at them, I'm like, it looks.
I must have done a
What-
good job then.
What do we, what could possibly, what's missing? I don't know.
So I kind of took those goals and objectives and I turned them into some of these projects over here. And I think that one of the things we want to talk about is like ranking how we would do some of these things.
Mhm.
Like, of all these things, what would you rank the highest? What do you want to do? Or do you want to do?
Aren't you
That's a
supposed to
good
put
way
a
to do
dollar
it.
amount beside them?
Well, I was kind of waiting to do that when we got a little bit
Line.
more.
But then you just, I mean, him or whoever could throw the amount, because
So the
I
dollar.
guess no different than the four, because when the other one was built, it was built on projected income.
Right, right.
And this is gonna be basically done the same, but
So
you're
here's
talking about $30,000 a year.
Right. But, I mean, that's what I was trying to get to is that out of our regular, so some of these things go over to our regular budget. Some of these things that we
That
want to
we
keep
do
working
now,
on.
and-
Right.
We've already said and voted on that we
Yes.
are gonna do
Do we
these
want to
things
keep
that are on our
doing the
regular
face,
budget. Yes.
yeah, do we want to keep doing face forward? And, do we want to give it 10,000 or 30,000 a year or, but so those are things that I've already translated from this list over to our regular budget. So then if you go from this list, like, Aaron brought up earlier, why don't we have water? Support city efforts to study the feasibility of a municipal water system. Is that something that we want to do? And where would it rank? Would it be in the 1 to 5, the 6 to 10, or the 10-year plan? Do you see what-
10-year plan.
Do you see what I'm saying? No, but so that's what
Yeah,
I'm
I
trying to,
mean,
that's what I'm trying to do.
the
here. I
higher,
mean, I have a lot of time and effort into thinking this through.
No.
And so that's what I'm trying to do here, but I probably,
So take us through it.
okay. So that's,
So let's get through it.
all right, so you go through these goals and objectives, and then I turned them into this list of plans, like this giant list of plans. I took all of them and went, they're over here, right? And, we want to keep working on sidewalks. Do we want to fund that every year, like a certain amount into sidewalks every year? So if you go down the funding chart, if you take sidewalks and you go to the funding chart, do we want to do sidewalk maintenance at $2,000 a year? I just threw crap in here, guys, okay, just seriously, so whatever we do. Or do we want to move down to capital improvements in one, in 1 to 5 years, spend 10,000, 10,000, 10, you know what I mean?
That's
That's,
just hard because I just don't feel like, I mean, I think the list is good and I think, this is really good, but I don't feel qualified to like say, okay, sidewalk from where to where, when and what kind. I mean, maybe that's what's
right,
getting
but
us
that gets
stuck.
us, no, but that gets us into the weeds.
That gets
So
into
that
the
would be,
weeds.
if, when we start talking, do we want to support sidewalks? So this is where I'm trying to get you to keep general. So if you want to
Okay.
support sidewalks, do you want to do it like a
Yes.
couple $1,000s every year?
I
and
want
just do-
everything on this list.
and do some little maintenance things, or do you want to do, all right, like we're gonna save a little bit, and then in year 5, we're gonna do $100,000 big sidewalk project. Do you see what I'm saying? Do we want to do, and then when we do that, we'll get in those weeds later when we start
Okay.
figuring out how we're gonna spend our money.
What does two?
So I could put in here,
$1,000
like a capital improvement
Change the
sidewalk
drawing
project,
numbers in
and then I could, throw it wherever, but it's not gonna be in the current year. So the current year are like littler projects, and the other years are gonna be bigger projects.
Say, the money is gonna force you to put, I mean, you got the house big, but it's gonna be 10 and out.
Well, right, and
So
so,
that's pretty easily,
Actually, it's not even realistic for 10. So logistics means we would have to stop doing some of what we're currently doing to do a $500,000 project in 10 years. Unless there was
we would
other
have to stop
funding.
doing everything we're
Right.
doing,
Well,
period.
not everything, but
Well,
so we could support.
we'd have about $20,000.
We could
that we could
support
do
a
everything.
study.
Yeah.
For what would happen in the hot stack area, and we could support, and that would move us into, okay, how would we fund that if we decide to make that a priority?
in
Right.
supporting, I think we would support anything in our district.
Right.
And you're supporting that through our arm, which is the city in the first place. I mean, they are the engine of the train. We're merely the middle of the train. So in any project, I think our support is always there. Just like she's saying, we would like to, she likes them all.
I do it all.
And that's fine and dandy, but in reality, you can't do them all. Keeping what we do to the amount of, let's say, half of our budget at this point, our budget's not gonna double in 10 years, correct?
In 10 years? Well, I had that laid out.
I know, and that
If it's in there, then, I mean, that's,
approximately,
it could.
okay, so let's say it doubles in 10 years. So now we're at 70,000 that we're spending, if we're still spending it. So, we've doubled the 35. It's-
Right,
Well,
and
we've
so
had
hence,
inflation,
that's why
so
you could
we're
put,
still-
Correct,
you could put some bigger projects 10 years out.
correct, but you're still borrowing against it
Right.
all the time.
Well, one of the concepts too is, as Paula has taught, is if you're not prepared in any way, shape or form, or if you really haven't done any studies on it, then if an opportunity comes, and let's just say a boat launch, all of a sudden the grant comes open. If you've got everything in order, you can apply for a grant and all of a sudden that project may become something, a reality that never was gonna be in 10 years.
Well, the basic theme to this whole deal is merely to, I mean, we got to appease,
We've
The
done
guy-
that.
well,
Right.
in a roundabout way.
Yeah.
Where the money's going, how's it gonna go, and what's your plan? And our plan is to make our lot line improve always in any way, shape, or form. And that can be in a study, or it can be in bricks and mortar, the sidewalk. Once you've taken care of every single sidewalk in that area, which we've done a pretty good job of replacing and fixing, still gotta maintain it, so there's still gotta be an amount, like you're saying, okay, so put a number in there of the $2,000 and take that out to eternity.
Yeah,
basically.
we're gonna keep it going. If we
Correct.
don't spend it, the next year, we're gonna spend 4,000 and then,
Exactly,
Right.
or if we can't, same with the phase forwards, okay, how many times have we had 9 of them come in the same year?
not very often,
Never,
right?
okay, most likely 1 or 2. And we had literally had it at 15,000 for several years, and then we bumped it down a couple of years ago to 10, and we come in with 9 of them in 1 year. So it doesn't mean we have to change our whole entire plan to fit that.
Nope.
Right?
No, that's already, I mean, I feel like that's
Yeah, I
something
think we
that,
have that as a
right, so that's. what-
underlying
Yep, I agree. I think.
product. You got it in
Yeah.
there.
I'm just looking for validation of what those are, that you guys want to keep doing those things you're doing. Or,
Does anyone think that we would change basically what we spend our money on? Pretty much, I mean, things are gonna change anyway, that the movie in the park might change to something totally different, to more bands, not the movie, or what, we don't know the future, but we're all in accordance with trying to keep this element going, right? Being the parks,
Some
and
entertainment of some sort within the city, yeah.
whatever it might be.
so that's why
So-
when I put on here programming, I put special events, music, movies, festivals, whatever. And so what I want you to look at is, we're spending about $3,000 a year on that. Is that what you want to do? Or do you want to spend 10 grand a year on stuff? You see what I'm saying? So you gotta, there's money out there to do these other special events and to keep programming and doing these things that bring people into town. But I think the conversation we had with Cheryl tonight, if we're gonna keep doing that, how do we help these businesses keep up with that stuff that we're bringing into town? And how do we coordinate those efforts? So I think those are all play together, if you ask me.
So can I just back this up and,
Yep.
and ask a fundamental question? So goals and objectives, we have a pretty lofty list. I feel like we have a very lofty list for 10 years. Even if it is for 10 years.
Right.
Is this realistic and in line with what other DDAs are doing?
Yeah.
This, I don't know this.
Yeah, they
I
are.
would say if you take a look at the old one,
Uh-huh.
and I was here when that was,
Yeah.
yes,
So that's,
because
Okay.
the things that have been accomplished, literally, let's say burying the wires in the streetlights,
Mhm.
that was one of those goals that were, there's no way that's ever gonna happen. Well, it happened 20 years ago. almost.
we did it.
Okay.
We did it.
But
But-
did
but
we
no,
do
I
it with
wonder-
our own funding or did we do it with some additional funds? that
It
we sought
happened
out?
because of,
And this doesn't have to be just your funding.
Right.
That's what I'm wondering. See, that's,
Correct.
that's what I'm trying to understand, because I'm new to this, so, but, I do this all day. So what I'm wondering is first, this does align, and so even though it is lofty goals, we may have some funding, we may be able to acquire funding for some of this stuff that seems, when I look at a $70,000 a year budget, I'm like, yeah, we're not doing like, we
Right, but
need
see-
one thing in each of the.
Okay, but so think about it this way. If the DDA supports a project and they keep it moving through the system,
Mhm.
it might not cost you a dime, right?
Okay,
So you could just say, but we'll support paying for the plan.
Okay.
We'll support the engineering.
and
We'll
then,
support-
and then who pays the
no.
rest?
Well,
But then who?
no, but we
where-
make it a project. So then we partner. We partner with the
Okay.
city or with the state or the feds and we get a grant or.
Okay, okay,
So we
Okay.
partner with people like Cheryl, or we partner with people we have to pay. But so that, I mean,
all right,
to
so this
limit,
makes sense to
so
me.
I guess what I'm trying to explain is to limit the vision to the $70,000 a year.
Don't do that.
Right.
Okay, I got
But
it.
we also
really
can't, we also can't say, we're gonna build this $500,000 park on our own.
Right.
So that's what you're getting at, is that, we're not gonna do that, but we can
But if
foster it.
if we pay for a study for it, or a planning for it, that we may be able
Right.
to partner with something and get some grants that.
Over the
that
years-
later.
that's where it got started.
That was
Over-
my point of being
Over the years,
prepared.
I,
Okay, gotcha,
over the years,
gotcha.
I came to the DDA and they would roll their eyes whenever I came in the room. I would sit over there.
Mm.
And I would, yeah, I would come to them and ask them for, hey, will you pay Bob Ford to do the drawings for these buildings so that we can get so we can get a facade grant? And, you know, it took some convincing for a while, but hey, what about helping me with some money for this, you know, to do this park? Or, you know, and the DDA was always very supportive of those programs after we started to build our vision a little bit. And, you know, once it started rolling, it became much easier. Like when Gail or Jody come now and want money for the movies or the music, we can all see the impact. But when you can't see the impact, it's harder to get that vision. And so what I'm trying to get us to do is not limit ourselves to that, but to limit ourselves with the area we have and what do we want to see there? I mean, it could be anything. Like, I mean, I know that we've talked about, you know, the boat launch, and people are like, well, how's the DDA gonna participate with that? Well, I'll tell you how. We need a business in town, or we need the support, and we need to let people know, educate people that we're gonna have a boat launch. And how could this work for downtown? We're gonna bring people in, we're gonna drop them there, right? So their cars are gonna be there. They're gonna float down to Babcock Landing, and they're gonna come back into Langford to get their car. Now they're gonna be hungry. They're gonna be thirsty. They might need new shoes. I mean, I don't know. They might have lost a paddle. The next time they're gonna come, they're gonna plan a fishing trip, and they're gonna stop and have a few beers before they go on the river. And then, so, I mean, that's how it helps.
So I think this is a really good list too. You know, I just went through and like flagged everything, whether I thought it was low or high. I didn't really have a lot that were mediums. It was sort of like it just triggered like this either low or high. The ones that I flagged as high were things that were directly helping merchants and businesses in the downtown, and marketing and branding and signage and wayfinding and things like that. And then also things that were adding activities for summertime fun, not so much in the winter. Like ice skating rinks and things like that, I kind of put low only because I know that participation in winter sports and winter events is not really a big revenue generator for downtowns per se. I mean, so I have a little bit of a bias there. Whereas I know if we put money into amenities and existing parks that for the summertime, that we could get visitors that we could convert into shoppers for the downtown retail, that gives you a trickle through benefit. Whereas I'm less convinced that things like other, you know, soft winter activities are real, like there just aren't enough people doing that are visitors that can be converted into new shoppers, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not seeing the same return on investment for winter activities as I do summer activities. But everything that I flagged as high is, I flagged it because I see a direct connection between the money spent on that effort as a direct trickle through benefit for merchants and retailers and for the downtown. There are other things that are really good to do, but I know that they're sort of like, well, we should have sidewalks and road resurfacing and parking and directionals into parking and all of those things. Those are all things that other communities are always talking about. But I'm sort of like, there's a part of me that says, let's not flag that as a high priority until we really have a problem. Like, I want parking to be a problem before I say that I'm going to spend money on parking. I'm going to say, I'd like to see parking. I'd like to see so many visitors here that parking really is a problem. You know what I'm saying?
Parking was a huge problem the other
Friday
night,
night.
the other night when we opened.
It was.
Okay.
So
maybe it is.
So maybe it is, but that's why I'm narrating this. That's why I'm saying what I'm saying is I want you to know what my bias is and how I flag these. You can have these sheets.
Thank you.
But I wanted you to know what my thought process was and how I went through the school.
We had people that Friday night from Coldwater that were here.
Yeah.
They were were asking about distances. There was a lot of
Well,
people.
maybe
that
we
was
need,
out of
maybe
town.
maybe we have a parking problem. I
Well, let me
know that
tell you-
all communities, there's a parking problem in every community,
Yeah.
no matter who you ask.
I want to say that I think anything that we just determined is a project worth funding is also a project worth maintaining.
Mhm.
So, you know, when we talk about the sidewalk, so yeah, we did do a lot. And I know you asked, what does $2,000 get us? Well, it might get us the maintenance for the year.
Right.
And if we
that's
do it
all-
every year that we have a maintenance, I mean, some of this is gonna compound until it sunsets. So maybe, you know, there comes a time where maintenance just isn't gonna work anymore and we have to have a new project for whatever the thing is.
But no
But-
maintenance brings it back quicker.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that's was my question is even if you were repairing a sidewalk, to maintain $2,000, what's it gonna get you? I mean,
Well, that's what it takes to seal it right now.
Well,
to
that's
keep
what,
it sealed.
I mean,
That's why
we
use
inquired,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I threw that number in there merely for a conversation, like, you know, I mean, what do you guys think? You wanna put, you know, 5 or 10 grand a year
I
in
think we should put
sidewalks?
about 5 in there, and that's my point is, and if we don't use it, then we use it or carry over the next year, we can do a
Right,
project.
so we're saying that sidewalks are a high priority,
Right.
that we wanna, you know, I mean, I guess that's what I'm looking for, is like that kind of feedback. What are your priorities? Like, do you wanna do the sidewalks? Do you wanna keep
I
doing?
think everything on that list is a high priority, but then you have to say, okay, which ones are essential? Which ones are really going to support our businesses and fill our vacancies? And I struggle, as much as I know that sidewalks are absolutely important, and believe me, I'm an advocate for pedestrian friendly downtowns. It's sort of like, if someone were to say to me today, how would you spend your money on sidewalks or on filling vacant spaces? I'd be like, I want to channel all my energy into filling those vacant spaces.
Well, I feel like we haven't been good at that. Like,
I know we haven't.
we have, you know, if somebody comes in, we support it, like, we're good at being, you know, that, but I feel like we haven't engaged in the activity of filling those vacant spaces.
We
Like,
haven't gotten into
we as a
retail recruitment.
DDA should be looking at Boondocks and saying, what can we do to get that restaurant back open?
Mhm.
I mean, seriously, how do we foster this relationship? How do we get something in there? And what can we do to help Twilligers in the meantime?
Mhm.
And, you know, I mean, and I feel like this is where my food truck maybe came from. Is that I feel like that is how we could foster some of that right now. Might not help Boondocks get open, or it might. What if somebody does a food
Well,
truck
it
there
really
and they're
could.
like, you know what, I could open a restaurant here.
It could.
And so,
It's already got a kitchen.
right, so I feel like, I mean, I know these are kind of really deep, in which all the conversation is gonna help me fill in these gaps. And if I know there's, you know, nothing on here you guys wanna scratch, or you wanna, you know, completely like just put all your money into, I think that from the conversation, I can gather, you know, I can fill in these charts and try to provide you with something that, you know, I've just looked at other people's plans, and this is where I got a lot of these ideas from, is looking at other plans, and there's some really good stuff out there. I mean, we could do, you know, all kinds of crazy plans, but I mean, I want to have something better than what we were provided.
Okay, so couple questions. I'm gonna go back to the deadline.
Yep.
thing. So goals and objectives. I think that it sounds like we're pretty solid on goals
Right,
and
so-
objectives, and we've all gone through it in the last meeting.
Yep,
And
so-
then this is what you compiled from
Yeah,
that, right?
basically what this is it took those goals and objectives we came up with.
Mhm.
And we kind of, between Christopher and I, we combined some of the goals, so we're down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 goals.
Yep.
Which is doable.
Yep, yep.
And then these other things just kind of fall in there, and they're from our other plans that we pulled out and said, hey, the DDA can help with these things. So most of these things fall within that.
Okay. And I guess I wondered, do we all agree with where we landed with this now? The goals and objectives, everybody?
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I feel good about it.
So then
Good
it's,
goal.
the actions on these are the other projects that we could do in order to take action on these objectives that we have under the goals.
Right.
Okay. And And who is that owed to besides us as a DDA? Who is
So
our plan?
So the redevelopment ready communities,
Mhm.
in order to, get, so we maintained their certification, but in order to get recertified,
Uh-huh.
they wanted us to update our plan.
And that it includes these specific or, well, more high level, but actions that we would want to take in order to meet these objectives.
Correct.
Is that correct? And we
Yeah.
owe that to somebody else too.
Yeah, it's just, these are just pieces that are missing out of that plan that's floating
Okay.
around here
Okay.
that weren't in there. And they weren't requiring it. He didn't kick it back for that. He kicked it back because there weren't any,
Specific.
yeah,
basically.
no projects, no
Right.
projects were there with money associated with them. And then as I read through it, I'm like, none of this, I can't even use this. So that's where these things came from for me. When I started looking at other people's plans, I'm like, we don't have any goals and objectives in here. Our old plan had goals and objectives. We have to have goals.
Mhm.
And so that's where this piece came from.
Okay.
And I feel like I'm pretty secure with this piece. I think we're good with that.
Okay,
I think
okay,
this was kind of just running back by you what we already did.
okay, all right.
So, and then my separate chart here kind of took those, like this says no funding required. This is my little spin on what we should do. No funding required, review the zoning regulations. So this would be a policy that would support these. Review the zoning regulations that affect the district and provide feedback to the planning commission. So something we could do annually is review what affects the downtown district and work with the planning commission if we need to eliminate something or add something. And I took that straight from one of these objectives, which was really wordy and people don't really know what it means. This is me saying, this is what one of those objectives really means, is that we want to do that. I could probably go find the one, but I mean, I actually do have a long time in this, so.
No, it's good.
And so then, encourage and support projects that will link non-motor, I mean, that was something that was, in one of our, it was one of our things in one of these that it said we were gonna encourage non-motorized projects that would support, connections to the downtown. And some of you guys might not think about how like a sidewalk on Woodbury Road would affect the downtown, but it would. It's not spending money in your district, but it's spending money helping people get to your district. So whether you built the sidewalk or just helped with seeing if that's something we should do.
So on your list, about this far down, it says create and maintain a list of potential redevelopment sites. I would just add vacancies, retail vacancies. Like we should be going through, what are the vacant spaces in the downtown? We should just review them annually and just go, you know what I'm saying? And just kind of have a dialogue about why is it vacant? What's the problem with the building?
The very next one.
I could,
Is it the next one? I'm sorry.
I thought I had it in here.
Create, maintain a list.
for
of
next
sites
meeting, I
that
could
DDA
take pictures and
Free to maintain a
Drop
list
that.
of sites to require for redevelopment efforts. Can we acquire?
What,
Yeah,
We can.
to acquire. Yeah, you're right. It's
for-
basically, it's basically.
or
right.
redevelop.
I should.
Anyways, I'll add vacancy, but I mean, this basically was me going, okay, so we have all of these goals and objectives and some of the plans lay these out and I'm like, these things don't even cost any money, so we don't need to
Just
convert it,
review. What do we have? Why are these buildings vacant? It's like, when businesses come into town, we're on the DDA board, and I think for some of us, it's hard to even talk to some of these buildings, because we don't really know what the status is.
well, that orange one got bought and nobody did anything with that.
Right, and they were gonna, but I feel like, I mean, I feel like those are the relationships we need to foster. Hey, you got this vacant building here. You bought it. What are you thinking? And let's get her in touch with Cheryl. Let's get her in touch with us or other businesses or the LBCA or whatever it is and find out what can we do to help get this off zero.
And then that blue one, it's really bad shape.
But I feel like
So
that's
who's gonna invest in that?
right. We can point out the problems. I want to figure out how we like figure out how we can help these people. How do
so
we
what
make
we
this
need is a
happen?
real estate broker to just prepare cut sheets on every vacancy in the downtown, and put those cut sheets on our website so that a prospective new business could like shuffle them like a deck of cards and go, okay, which of these, what are the specs on each building, and why does that one has a kitchen, and that one has a leaking roof, and that one's 2 stories, and this one's for sale, and this one's for lease, and
I think they've been in the weeds though, of what, I think we're,
Right,
get in
we
the
are,
weeds of
but I
how
mean,
to-
we're having great
Yeah.
conversations.
I'm just saying
Yeah.
that this is something we could do.
That's
We're
fine.
talking about
No,
helping.
Right,
But
so
it
what
is-
I
Having a
did,
discussion
this-
about how do we fill vacancies? That's how you fill vacancies, is you let prospective merchants know what you have available.
right,
I
so
think
what
that's a
I'm
really good
saying
idea.
this is something that we would review every year and go, hey, every year we're gonna do this, every third year we're gonna do this, but those are things that, like, the details that Sharon's talking about right now, that I feel like, every, quarter, we should talk about vacancies, or those are the things that, but like, that's the deep, right, so that's the deep in the weeds part, but the part I'm saying is that if everybody agrees with this stuff, that's what I'm talking about, is that those are things that we could throw in our plan for future DDAs to understand what they can do to help with the businesses and stuff. So
I like it.
I would suggest, I have a lot of feedback I can take from what you guys gave me tonight, but if you guys wanted to look through the actual lists here, and, don't worry about my wordage, this was just me kind of brainstorming. So that's what I was trying to get you guys to do, is do some brainstorming. So when I ask these questions, I'm like, brainstorm about things that are bothering you that we need to take care of, or that we could foster.
So do you want us to brainstorm? I guess the question is, when do you want us to brainstorm?
Well, do you
On our
want me to come
own?
back next month and go through each one of these, or do you guys want to think about it and?
I don't think we have to go through each one, I think it's clear that
Put
we-
together what you have.
All right.
there's so much
Okay.
here and it's good
I think I
stuff.
can do
It's
that. I
more-
think that, I think I have a good feel for what you guys want. That's
Just more individually, would we come back and make any refinements to any of these? I mean, I think it would just be refinements. I don't think we have to go through them item by item, because it's already so comprehensive. It's just, is there anything that we see missing?
Yep. Exactly. If you guys are thinking of something that you're visioning or envisioning, and it's not.
I had one that I saw this weekend that really, it's bugging me. I need to know now. The post office is owned by Kessler.
Mhm.
He's owned it for how long?
That's been
Okay, he's on the wall.
25 years.
The
I've
post
been here
office-
21.
Well, it's been here a long. It used to be with us.
Mhm.
That's what it is. So anyway, this building across from the hotel was the Museum and Arts down in Memphis, Tennessee. Well, below it was the post office. It was originally, the whole thing was posted.
Mhm.
The post office was shrunk and moved into the basement. And they took over. Why can't the library and the post office, because the post office is paid by the government. They rent that building. Well, they rent it from him, he owns it.
Right.
Why can't the library be owned by the city, which is paid by the post office being in the basement
What-
of the library?
Where's the library? Go?
Right in front of the post office.
Oh,
That vision of that building and everything, only the post office is paying rent to be part of
I see.
the library.
they could.
It's helping pay the bill for that structure. It just, I mean, he's
But I have
made
a
all
much
the money.
big- But I have a much bigger vision for that building than that,
The library?
the new building. It's not a library and a post office that are probably both gonna go away.
Okay.
It's
I still
living,
have-
we want people
Right, I
living
know, but-
downtown.
I know that, but it still can be those too, just in a smaller scale. I think the post office will be gone too.
No, that's what I'm saying. is
I mean,
that-
literally, it
and
ain't
when
gonna be
I
around
talk-
much longer.
When I talk to the, like the development team that's helping us with that building situation, is that they say that, I have somebody that wants to rent the whole 10,000 square feet. But the people that I'm talking to that want to invest, don't want that just one tenant. For the rest, that would happen is the post office lot. If they take with that one tenant, if they left, they don't want that space just to be one tenant.
Right.
Because that leaves them vulnerable to the market.
Which is one tenant.
Right.
And you don't want that.
Right,
Yeah.
but this is, so that, I mean, but that could be part of our visioning is like, we know, what if we put 6 small restaurants in the bottom of the area? I mean, I don't know. And those are the things that we're gonna find out what the market has if we do find somebody to invest in that site. But we want a couple of floors of living space upstairs and get 100 people living downtown. On top of the people that already live there. I mean, we double the residents in downtown. What's gonna happen to our commercial district?
They're not gonna be able to keep up.
But that's where we gotta, but I feel like that's the piece that, we really need to start investing in is how we're gonna fill those vacancies and how we're gonna
Exactly.
support our businesses.
Well, and I think the point that Sharon made about possibly having a business owners meeting or restaurant people and asking questions such as, and I
What
and I
can we
don't,
do?
yeah, I mean, why do you close at 1:45? Or why do you only open from 2 o'clock to 9 o'clock at night? And there's people in town all day long, those type of things, and find out what their reasoning is. Is it staffing, or is it because they only want to be open 9-10 hours out of the day because that's all they want to work? I don't know.
But I think we need to
No,
find
no, I
out.
think we have to have a tone of helping
Right.
instead
I
of
agree.
a tone of,
I
I worry about driving them away if we say,
No, I feel
why
like-
are you?
No, how can
You
we
know,
help you?
Yeah,
help
I'm a little
us,
worried
and how
about
can
that.
we,
Well, you
know,
can't help them if you don't know what the hours are. I can't go to a restaurant and eat if I don't know what their hours are. Half the time you don't know what time
understand.
anybody's open.
Yeah, well,
That's
and,
the
and
point.
I agree, but I don't,
But
I
I
mean,
mean,
they
they
know
know
when
when
they're
we
open.
wanna,
Yeah,
we
we
wanna
wanna
reach
tell
out to them and
and
ask
say,
them, how
what can we do to
Right.
help you? Is there a way that we can help you?
Well,
And-
that's the whole point of my question, why I said it, is there a reason why you're not open during business hours of the day? Is it staffing? Is it
Staffing.
how
The
can
way
we
you
help
do
you?
it is you say, we're gonna put a sign out, a billboard or a sign that says Langsburg open 9 to 5 every day. Now, would you be willing to be open 9 to 5 every day if we put a sign out that said that? Would you be willing to
See,
be part
that
of that?
to me would be forcing.
Not forcing them, but maybe asking them. I know what you're saying. I'm not,
Yeah.
maybe I'm not the best diplomatic.
I'm just curious if it's only feasibly financially for them to be open those hours. If it is, there's not a whole lot of way you can help them.
Well, you have to get them to talk to you first of all.
Right, we're trying to vision how we can help them. We're not trying to be negative.
Not in a
We're trying
negative
to
way,
be-
yeah.
Yeah.
I
We're
mean, it's
trying
no
to,
different than Mike. I mean, I've asked him to come. to the
I
meeting
think she'd be
several
good at
times,
it.
and you can't force them to come to the
Right,
meeting.
right.
And I've even, and Mark was the same way. When he owned the bar, I did the same thing with him.
right, right,
And we literally give them
right,
money.
right.
Not
And,
even
and like
suggested
this, I
them.
mean, these guys have options to help them, but I can't force them to use those options. But what I'm trying to get at is, we already know the issues. We don't know specifics, but we know there's issues. How do we get past that? I mean, and maybe it is creating the competition. Maybe it is adding the food trucks. Maybe,
Well,
maybe
and
I'm
I think
crazy.
that
Maybe
would be
that
a
won't help. I don't know.
good way to introduce that to them is to get them to come to the meeting.
Come to a meeting, say, we
And
want to
then
talk
say,
about.
this is what we want to talk about, and this is why, and don't take this as we're trying to hurt your business. in any way.
Absolutely.
We're trying to help your business by doing this. What's your opinion?
And
How
maybe it
do
would
you
be
feel
just you
about it?
having a conversation with one of them or
Correct.
something, because that might even be better.
I did the same thing to her when she came to town.
Right.
I said, you need to come to the meeting.
Yep.
We can help you.
Yep.
She just never came, and I can't force her to come, but
Right.
I asked her personally.
Right.
This is who I am, and you need to.
I
to
wonder
come.
what it is about us that they don't trust. I mean, to me, I go, okay, well, what's the root of that problem? It's gotta be trust of
Or
some
maybe
sort,
it's
or
just
some-
that it's not
you
a
know,
convenient time for them to come to the
Well,
meeting.
and that
I
could be
mean,
too.
No,
And
I
like-
don't think it's neither of those. I think it's
They just-
knowledge. It's just
They might
not
not think
knowing.
they're gonna gain anything from it, so they don't wanna
Right.
waste their time.
I don't have enough time in the day to do what I'm doing.
Right.
Why am I
and
going
now
to
you're
some
asking me to
stupid
do something
meeting?
else,
Yeah.
right?
And we feel the same way, but we still show up here.
Right, and they're gonna ask me questions about
Doing
my
it for
business and ask
25
me
years.
to provide information about my business in front of my colleagues and the other business people in the same room.
So I'm just saying, we're not gonna solve that tonight, but I'm
No.
planting that seed that I feel like we need to start steering some of our resources towards filling the gaps.
We could come up with a survey for.
Yep,
maybe more-
absolutely. That's on my list, is that we
private
survey the
and
businesses.
gentle to just do a survey.
Yeah, you know, and then
Door
maybe
to
tell
door.
them what we're trying to accomplish. Because maybe they don't know.
I think they would be scared. I don't disagree that they could be, but I think it's just lack of knowledge. And that's why I told them, I told you, go to the meeting.
Yeah,
There's
now
literally-
look, you've got me doing the treasury.
This is why nobody, this is why you're the
I don't
problem.
trust you.
Get me out of here.
You're the reason. He gets you in the web.
Oh, goodness.
But anyways, I feel like we maybe have changed, a lot in the last 20 years, and I feel like we need a vision to keep going. And then, or just stay like you are. So,
Hey,
So
can't
I'm-
stand
I wonder
still.
if-
Nothing stands still.
I wonder if,
No.
so I know that Sharon went through and did her high, medium, low, but I wonder if we all should do that. I mean, we could
That'd be
do it as
great.
we could do it individually, or
you guys
I
could
could help you do this next
absolutely.
month, if we want to facilitate prioritize these, I can help you.
That's fine, absolutely.
She does it all the
I do
time.
it all the time.
And the
all
only
day.
thing, the only problem I have is, it's not the only thing I do, and I've got a shit ton of time into this. So, and I'll take all the input I could get. All I need is, I need a path. And that, I think I took what I got from you guys last, and I gave you this back, kind of
Yep.
regurgitated, and now I've kind of just took it a step further. And so,
So I
What's-
wonder, what does the group want to do? Do we want to do this, prioritize all these as a group? Or do we want to do it individually and turn them in?
and we could combine those projects and prioritize them as well into something, smaller. It doesn't,
What do you guys want to do? Is everybody gonna actually do this at home? by
Well, I
themselves?
think it's,
Already done, yeah.
I
Okay,
think
alright.
it's better to do it seriously by yourself,
Thinking about it.
that's fine.
instead of getting this
And then get them to me.
combat between each other on figuring out just,
Yeah, we won't get through it if we try.
yeah,
to do
just
it
lay it
individually.
out yourself. And
Drop it to me or
I
send it
think
to
we
me.
drop it to her just and leave it.
And give me a week or two before the meeting, like, do it right away.
Yeah, do it now.
And that way I
And
get it
back to her.
back and I can put it together and
Bosses
Rosemary and I
are
can kind of
so
have a
good.
couple of hours to go over something. That's, I mean,
You
that's.
guys are all retired anyway, right?
But who?
Who
Who are you
what?
talking about retired?
So let's
I've had to
do it
put
that
more
way.
hours in this week than you have.
Dave, do you
It was
have
just Monday.
anything for us? Cause you've
doesn't-
been here. and you-
Well, I've been-
Kinda let you
I'm
out.
pretty quiet, I know, I'm pretty quiet.
Yeah.
I listen a lot,
And you give me ideas when you,
I do.
Yeah,
We all do, because we all run businesses.
I'm generally pretty quiet, and if I have something to say, I will say it.
Okay,
That's when it's
all
done.
right, let's get the heck out of here.
Wait, I had a couple more questions.
Oh,
yeah, you guys know that tree on Grand River?
Every house.
yes. Oh, yes.
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah, now we're in the good.
Now he's
We're
talking.
all thinking of some other
All right, so the tree on Grand River that's in the big brick wall that's been there since I was in high school, because we used to sit on that wall. and have
That's been there a long time.
Across
Oh,
from
yeah.
from the.
Across from
The park.
The park,
Yes.
yeah, okay, yeah.
Right, well, the trees kind of have cut off. I don't see that it's gonna get any better. And then I feel like when we had that surveyed, Dave thinks it's theirs, but I feel like when we had it surveyed, it was questionable. Like the
None of
brick,
those trees are there.
the
None
brick,
of the trees within the side, within a certain distance of the sidewalk. are-
could somebody like get a vision for what we could do there, because it really, I think everything else is starting to look so nice, and that's really, really bad.
Because when we moved the house, it took it up the back street. What's his name went crazy on me, and I said, you don't own the tree. I said, I do. I said, well, it's gonna get cut. Let's get cut right now. Down it went. He didn't own the tree. He doesn't own the tree. It's in the road right away, basically. I mean, the inside the road right away, the road right away of Grand River is pretty wide, isn't it? Isn't it 75 foot? Total?
Depends on where you're at.
Right. But anything in that, including any tree, even if it's on someone's property, doesn't matter.
Well, anyways, it's just another kind of one of those things that we might want to.
Do you think she would be a stickler about it, or?
I know I don't. I think we could call her, but I just kind of think that it would be nice to get some brick on that side that looks like our other side. You know, kind of clean that up a little bit, and then if we have to take the tree down and put a nice new big tree there that, or we kind of,
Move it down on the corner,
yeah.
but
So I mean, I don't want to get rid of trees, you know, but I'm not a tree hugger, but I don't, I mean, I feel like that thing is, I mean,
well, it'd be as soon as you start cutting.
I
that
can't
down,
believe it's not one of the
it's
ones that
gonna
fell during your big storm, but you know.
Well,
Yep.
and so like this conversation, I wonder, because I don't know if that's on this list.
No,
right?
but it would be in beautification. So you see, I mean, that's why I don't want you to get caught up. Our list has to be so specific.
Mhm.
But those kind of projects are things that should fall in to our,
We talked about that before we replaced the sidewalk.
We
Talked about
have.
taking it out.
Yeah.
completely, Building a retaining wall there about 4 feet high, putting a new set of steps to that house. Back.
Right. Yeah.
And take that retaining wall down to nothing to the corner.
Yeah.
To make it look like the other side. Take the tree out, put it out on it. Corner.
so that's just something that we could put in our capital project plans or something.
You know.
And it's that one, that kind of bugs me a little bit.
Well, in, like, if you go down the path by the post office, it's all beautiful there, but it's rotting away. You know, the brickwork is rotting away, so I
Those
also
are
think things that,
Yeah.
you know, maintaining what we currently have, I think is important too.
Yep, I agree with that.
And a lot of that is bringing it to the attention of somebody because they can walk by it every day and never see it.
Yeah.
You know, or somebody doesn't walk by it and you did, and you see it. and
I had 3 kids walk by a plastic bag today.
Well, and then the, you know, the sidewalk in front of us and Klotz is still the old.
Well, then we have the sidewalks that we did that are breaking up like that, or they're cracked. And so it's like, you know, those are, I think that that's important too, obviously.
The biggest reason those need to be well maintained is if you do have something here where parking is an issue, you have to park further away. The problem that we had with this scenario here was that I'm gonna guess maybe 30% of the population that was there was over 80. And I'm not, that's really good because they are there. I mean, they have influence on very young people. Even though they're 80. But getting them there was an issue, a huge issue, because they want to park because they have to right on top of it, because they can't motorize themselves in any way to get there. So they were literally walking to park up there, or they were literally pulling in there and wanting to park when there was no place to park. So the next thought is, how do we have something go on there? And there's a lot more handicap parking closer, which means everyone who can walk is gonna have to park in the parking lot far away. So you need a good sidewalk to get
Get the golf cart out
from there to here.
and start chauffeuring.
The other thing I did want to
Need a
bring up
drop
was
off, pick up.
about the, yes, is the sun. And that's we knew it was gonna be
Yep.
absolute pain in the ass.
And this is something else that
It
you
just
can help
sucks.
with. Yep.
It's terrible, and you're gonna melt if you're on the stage there, and you can't see if you're on the stage there. But you take and turn it the other way, and then the people who are wanting to look at the stage can't see it because it's
It's just the way it's set up. So on that side of the sidewalk, you can call it west if you want. It needs a sun tarp. I want to get on the internet, but I don't have the internet anymore for a couple of days. And we need to get
Like sales.
correct.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. is
And
something-
all it's gonna be, will be something that will go up. I mean, on the Wednesday evening or Tuesday night, because it's not gonna, something that's gonna be permanent, but these, I'm thinking like 3 or 4 pipes. It'll be like a flagpole put on an angle, and they will hold, all it is a, it's not gonna be a blue
No,
tone.
it's just a
It'll-
shade.
Yeah.
It'll be a
Everything
shade, the
sales,
sun can
yeah.
go through it, the air can somewhat go through it, but it will knock it down so that everyone who's sitting there won't get fried, for one, looking that direction. And then the people who are on the stage are literally not just, you can't see, you're blinded and you're frying.
So it's
So
a
my
vertical sale, like, or up on top?
No, it's a vertical, but it's gonna be on an angle.
I feel like we could have, I know what you're,
Like
I think,
above, like 6, 8, 10 feet up and up higher? Or like down to the
Yeah,
ground?
down the, maybe down to the ground. I would need someone to either take a look at it or take a look at other ways that they've been used. It's basically a sail on a sailboat, only it's not stopping the wind or stopping this, it's knocking it down. They sell them, I've seen them.
right, but I've also seen ones that go over the top.
Right.
That
and they're-
would, yeah, and I think that what we found was the church service that was there, the parishioners had the sun in their face coming over the.
That's what I'm saying,
amphitheater.
no matter which way
Yeah.
you turn it,
So that's
someone's
why I
gonna
think
be
it needs to
pissed,
be
but-
on top. You-
it needs to be back there. It just needs to be high enough to catch just maybe the top edge of the, at a certain time, because the sun's gonna keep going down as they're performing. It's
Right,
gonna
'cause-
eliminate completely
And we
by the
knew
time
that,
the
you
movie in
know,
the park starts.
we're calling this a work in progress. So as we
Okay.
notice these things, that we're gonna start like.
It won't be a hard fix.
No.
I don't think.
No.
It might cost 10 grand or something like that, I'm thinking. But it literally is just 3 or 4 posts that are flag poles, aluminum, that are inserted into a sleeve that's there all the time, and then they come out the rest of the time. So it's not there permanently, so the kids can destroy it or none of that. And you have a way to put it up, take it down.
And that's what we're talking about, is that we want our plan to be generic enough to cover those kind of things, and that tree thing, and those are good examples of, you know, generic goals.
The other theory was to take this sidewalk out or whatever, cut this off and just put straight in handicap parking right there.
Yep.
Meaning handicap, meaning they can set right, they don't have to leave the car even, because they can still see the.
Since the event,
Private.
we already bought these big plumes that say parking, so we're gonna put that down at the other end, because we have that, but nobody knows that lot's down there. So we're gonna bid it, and we're gonna.
But it
put
was
one
packed
down.
all the way down. When I left,
Oh, yeah.
It was
Jimmy's, the bar was overwhelmed. They had taken their phones off the hood. And these guys were overwhelmed that were selling food
They
up
sold
here.
them out.
And the parking was clear past the gas station down below the hill and out.
It was
So
awesome.
they were walking from down there all the way up anyway. So those who can walk, we'll let them walk, but those who can't, and that night, I'm telling you,
We can also buy one of those limousine golf carts.
Yep.
And run people.
something
Yeah.
I
to
mean,
let
but
them park
those are-
there and then just run
That's
them
why I'm saying
around.
that we need to have these kind of visioning things about like specific projects eventually.
I mean, a lot of times when you do the movie in the park, the kids want to walk and the parents are usually younger and they got, okay, we'll all walk and that's fine.
Could that part of not be designated? handicap?
That was one of the other,
Night?
exactly
We
what
talked
we had
about
talked
doing
about.
that. Yeah.
Saying, okay, that's only handicap parking, period. And
Yeah.
this would be the people who are performing, because people who are performing that night,
They actually
oh, they
walk the
parked
path.
right down, and you couldn't walk that way. So the people with all their, like my dad or someone of that age, have their carts to walk with. We're trying to do it on the grass.
Cause they
They're
can't,
all-
and our, how's our grass cut?
Yeah,
It's tiered seating.
so it was
Crazy.
interesting, but you can learn a lot real fast by watching it or looking
Well,
at
and
it.
I would suggest that's the other thing is go to these events and observe as.
Just stand back and look around.
Yeah,
You
observe
don't
as
need
a
to be
DDA
part of it,
person
just go
and think
look.
about how we can serve the people in the district by improvements.
And it was the same way when she started with the bands over here, their biggest complaint was we're right in the sun, we're fake, we can't see the people, we can't, it's just baking us. Well, they had the same kind of scenario down there, but I think it could be easily,
Is there a way to put sales off, like,
I don't know, that was my other
But
thought.
But I
least so
do think
that-
that those, I mean, we
to not block view?
We
but
definitely
sales
need
at
to
the
talk
top
about
floor?
that and figure out what we're gonna do there.
The only thing is if you put it back here and you angle it, it will protect the people who are sitting there also. Because even if you're sitting there with your back, I mean, it's direct sun.
Well,
and it
and a
could
lot of
help.
people were sitting up here, but they couldn't hear. And I'm
Right.
like, why are you sitting up here? There's lots of space. They wanted to be in the shade.
Shade.
They wanted to be in the shade. It didn't matter. So the other two projects we have going on is, I don't know if you guys know, we're really close to closing, I think, on this property over here. We bought Sings Building, the storage units right there. The school and the city partnered to purchase that. And yay, and then we're hoping that's gonna be parking, which will really be good for this event. So in the daytime, the school will use the parking, and the evening we'll be able to use it for our events. In the summer, they don't have anything. I mean, they just don't use it. So I think it'll be really good for all of us for, we get that done. So that's really good. And then Consumers Energy had a prosperity grant that they offered up for 250,000. So I threw in a hat to put in a boat launch at the river down here. We have a 2.5 acre parcel, probably about a mile right from the corner here to the river. And I partnered with, I've been working with a guy out of DeWitt that he has an art business downtown, and he does like metal signs and stuff and sculptures. And we're talking about doing a floating art park. So we would put some stuff downtown that maybe you could find on the river. And then he's already got people that want to put statues or sculptures in their yard. And so we applied for the 250,000 to forget it. In the meantime, I've talked to Ernie West, who his wife owns the dance studio. He's an engineer, and he's works for one of the townships, and they've written several DNR grants, and he's willing to give me all the numbers and all the costs, and the DNR is funding those like crazy right now too. So.
Yeah, the state's really pushing the outside entertainment.
Yeah, so we're really
recreation,
looking
so-
forward to hopefully developing that site and maybe using it to fill some vacancies downtown.
And as an example on that, that was probably brought up 5 years ago minimum of wanting to do that. And then we went through the RRC program and everything, and they come back and said, you've got water, why aren't you using it? Sharon was a big advocate, the council member was too. But because we had actually been through some of it, Paul was ready to write that grant. That's what my point was on some of this stuff is, if you're not ready, you don't get them. That's the only reason she's got the grant she's got. She stays way in front of
I
everything.
mean, if you guys got ideas, don't leave them on the table, but we can at least throw them in the file, and if something comes up, I mean, suddenly the timing just seemed right to work on that river. I mean, I've just not been there.
Get it. I really hope we.
I haven't been able to get there with that, you know what I mean? We've just had other things going on, but I feel like, you know, even if I don't get this funding, I think there's a
Keep
bucket of
trying.
money out there to fund that. You know, and Ernie's telling me, I mean, I thought 250 was a lot. Ernie's telling me 600,000 some of them cost.
Well,
They
it's
have
like
like
I said at that grand opening about Paula and the other ladies is the fact that when I became the mayor, she asked me that question, how do you feel about grants? And I told everybody that night, I didn't know squat about grants. I asked her the question, isn't that where the state gives you money and you pay a little bit? And she says, yeah. And I said, you write all you can do. And that's what she's been doing. And that's why this city is prospering. I mean, we know there's been over $10,000 worth of, $10 million worth of grants that's been applied to the city in 20 years.
Oh, it's 10. It's several,
All of it.
but I mean, Mark and I were both standing there, and that's where these brainstorms start, is we're watching these events and we're like, huh? We got a problem.
And it comes to you when you're seeing, oh, what's the
Well,
solution?
you never know if they get it done,
Right.
and then all you gotta do is listen.
Of course, we
Just
knew the
stand
sun
there,
was
you
gonna
don't
be
need
a
to
problem.
be known and listen to whatever anybody's saying,
And like,
what
when
they're talking about, and
I approached the school about that property, they were like, oh, well, that's just way too much money, and I go, is it? what's it worth to you if somebody else buys that, puts a use there that is not
That you
convenient
don't
for the
like.
school?
Yeah.
That might be even worse than what's there right now.
Like cannabis.
I'm like, guys, you can't think about that price sticker that he wants for that building. What is it costing you not to have the parking you want there? Because as a municipality, we don't always have the opportunity to buy these pieces of property. But when they arrive, there's a house right behind that property. They should have bought that house 2 or 3 years ago. Because that house is nothing but it's not a good compatible use.
They could have
for-
bought it for 45 years ago for
You know?
about $30,000 from me, but they didn't have no interest.
And it's like us buying this lot over here. As soon as they knew the city wanted it, they doubled the price or whatever. And then it sold, and the guy came back and went reasonable on us and sold us that property. But what if we had let that go and somebody built a big ugly pole barn right there? Right in front of our amphitheater. So it's not about what they cost sometimes, so. That's all I wanted to go.
I'm sorry, everybody.
That's all right.
No,
Thanks for the good conversation and the feedback.
We're out of here.
We adjourn.
Yep,
Yep.
8:20.
Christopher's still there?
He was back.
Yeah, I've just been hanging in the background, unpacking all my stuff.
Oh, listening to all these crazies.
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, we moved over the weekend, so like literally this was good to hear you guys talk while we unpacked our TV. So.
All right, well, we're
Never told
adjourned.
the story.
All right, I'm shutting off YouTube.
All right.
Cool beans.